Why don't we call this meeting to order? Oop, sorry.
I just got to start it. Yeah, you're good.
All right. Why don't we call this meeting to order, 6:32 PM. Why don't we start off with public input, which I believe we have some. So, do we have? There we go. We can see you.
Hi. Great. Heather Reynolds, Fort Marriage Way, chair of the CPAC, and I just wanted to let folks know that we're having an event on November 20th at 7 p.m. in which the district is going to provide some of the school psychologists, adjustment counselors, and guidance counselors to talk a little bit about what they do and allow audience Q&A. And if anybody's interested in joining, the link is available at www.nrsepac@gmail.com and go to events. If you
Awesome.
have any questions, you can email northreadingcpac@gmail.com. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Do we have anybody else?
Jeff Simons.
Sydney, can you give him the mic?
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Jeff Simons. First off, just thank you, Dr. Daly and everybody, Miriam, Kathy, everyone that was involved last Monday night. That was a great event to commemorate the 10th anniversary. Good to get the old band back together again. It was nice. Really good. Thanks. But kind of going through some old photographs and the old building here. New, not that old, but I have a question. I remember when we sort of proposed this room right here, we talked a lot about it being used for distance learning, remote learning, that sort of thing. And I'm just curious what the feeling is, how that promise has been fulfilled. And it got me thinking, too, just for things like beginning to phase out things like French or other things that might be coming down the road with limited resources, if there's more thought about perhaps doing classes where we might not have a French teacher here, but maybe we could bring one in here and have a French class, for example. So just want to throw it out there.
Do you want to?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the room gets used a lot for that. Some of the technological pieces have changed from the way it was originally designed. But I think the room does get used in a lot of different ways. I think that's, a possibility, but that's not really the direction we want to go. We want to try to have I think COVID taught us a lot about the value of having a face-to-face experience for kids, and so that's really what we want to invest in. But I would say we have, I don't know if, let's put you guys on the spot. Have either of you used, I know science has done some distance learning, bringing in a guest speaker. You guys have done a little bit of that too. Do you mind sharing?
Yeah, just for things like people who speak to the Armenian genocide. I believe they've had some guests come in through that platform. It's not a regular use item, I would say. It's more of a special use item.
Yeah. And like I said before, the mics at every seat, even some of the cameras, when we outfitted this room to be able to be controlled by NORCAM for purposes like this, it kind of changed the way it's configured a little bit for some of that two-way. And the technology's changed a lot in 10 years, but still something that's on our minds as a possibility.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Open floor. All right, why don't we move on to the student report. And Braden, I will not butcher your last name, but if you could tell it to us, that'd be great.
It is Braden Sanchistania.
Excellent. Excellent. Feel free. Floor is yours.
Just to start off with some Fine Arts Matters, there are tickets on sale for Water for Elephants, and Tech Week will start for the musical next week. So that is it for Fine Arts. And then for Athletic Matters, there's actually quite a lot. Boys soccer ended in round of 16 at Old Rochester Regional, going 1-2 for school. And then for girls soccer, we also ended in round of 32 versus Martha's Vineyard, going 0-1. And then volleyball ended in round of 16 against the Weston, going 0-3. Field hockey ended in round of 32 versus Hanover, going 1-5. And for other things, Unified Basketball had its senior night on November 3rd. And then Unified Basketball will also be hosting the end of the season Jamboree on November 18th here at North Reading. Football also won their Friday game against Marlborough 42-7, which is amazing. And then girls cross country qualified for states, and then Nala Benedict for boys cross country also qualified for states. So that'll be it for athletics. And then other notable interesting things are that IDs and pictures have been distributed. No school tomorrow because of Veterans Day. And then homecoming will be next Friday. Kids Night Out, which is like a event held by the student not student committee, the student council, I think. The funds will be used for students' attendance at the National Student Council Conference in Washington, D.C., which will be held in sometime in December. NEMASC, I'm not going to try and put that all into one word.
Yes.
The school council fall conference will be held in November 18th as well. And then junior and seniors are continuing to meet with college representatives this month, along with a mobile polar plunge sign-up, which is now available, and it will be on the 19th.
Nice. Very nice. Now, unfortunately, we put you on the spot now. And we ask, what are your interests outside of being here?
Outside of being here in this
Yeah.
room, for sports, I do like marching bands for the fall season, and I do
Nice.
tennis in the spring.
What's your instrument?
Sorry?
You do marching band. What's
Yeah.
your instrument?
Oh, I do the bass drum, like bass 4.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, which is the biggest one for now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. What year are you? Sorry.
I'm a sophomore.
Great. Well, welcome. We hope you come back.
Oh, I definitely will.
Awesome. Awesome.
Do you know how homecoming sales are going?
I've heard, just based off announcements, they're going very well, and the last time they had spoken about it, that there were a lot less tickets available. Like, they were close to selling out.
That's great.
Now, from what I heard, the girls' soccer went to penalty kicks, and am I right? Someone verify they went 40 kicks? Like, it went to some absurd number.
Yeah.
That I've never heard of before.
Mr.
No?
Clean?
24 rounds?
Was that right?
Are they really?
Oh.
Wow.
I've never even thought that they could go like,
21-20.
that's crazy.
It was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Understatement.
No, the girls did an amazing job. It was,
Incredible.
both teams, keepers on both teams, shooters on both teams. It was pretty crazy.
They were close to having Mr. Clean come in to kick, but didn't get that desperate, so.
Awesome.
I never thought I'd encounter it, but I do have to ask. So after you go through your 11, do you have to go to the bench when you go to that deep?
So.
I gotta know. I know it's got nothing to do with school committee, but I gotta know.
You can start with anybody on your roster.
Okay.
And they're gonna have to be on the field at the end, set of 5, and then it's one at a time.
One at a time.
So
Okay.
So 5, then sudden deaths. That means there are what? 16 sudden deaths before 17?
17 chances they hit that we stepped up and had to hit to, because they shot first, so we had to hit to stay alive.
Do you have to get to 10 before they can repeat? Is there something like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So much pressure.
I know.
Stage and then back to then the current stage.
We
or they're
only
all
had, we had 2 opportunities with the save and a miss that we could have won. But outside of that, we were surviving.
I'm sorry to spend so much time on it. I just have never heard of that before.
It's
Yeah.
definitely nothing I've ever seen.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, great effort. Excellent. Well, if that's it, you are more than welcome to stay because we have an awesome night planned. But if this isn't your cup of tea, you can go too.
I will definitely be staying.
Oh, wow.
So,
Right.
Rarity.
Sophomore stepping up. I like it. All right.
should I just stay here?
You can stay
Yeah.
wherever you want. You kidding? Wherever. You know. All right. Why don't we keep going? We've got some continued business. This is the second reading for the.
Do you want to just go to the people here first?
This shouldn't take long. I would say let's go to this and then we can go. So why don't we go to the second reading of policy JBCF? And this is Dr. Daly, Policy Committee. Do you guys want to talk about this?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to the high level, but we did have a policy subcommittee meeting after our first reading. We really only cleaned up just, again, ensuring that if we call it my cap or my cap 2.0 or whatever it is, that, you know, you have an equivalent, so that way we're not doing two readings if we decide to change the tool that we're using in the future, which is, I think, likely inevitable. Outside of that, there were no substantive changes from the first reading.
Just what's in green.
Yeah.
Dr. O'Connell worked on this a lot, actually did all the writing of it from the template, so she's here, just want to give her a shout out for that. And I watched the video again today, and they mentioned that we have to do an attestation every year, and they said in the video, you have to change it every year and have it approved every year. So I hope that this will allow us to not have to reconvene every year, and I can just do an attestation on a policy that's not changing every year, but we'll see. We'll see what they.
I will say, for a personal note, given the number of attestations I have to do for my real job
Yeah.
per year, this is fine.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else we need to cover on this? Otherwise, we can move forward. Anything else?
No, we're good.
Can we have a motion to approve second reading?
So moved?
Policy JBCF. I'm going to clarify that.
Go ahead.
Let's get a second.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved 4-0. Okay, why don't we move on to new business, the secondary school improvement plan presentations. And my guess is we should go out there so we can see what's going on up here. So, why don't we relocate?
Hello there, Scott. That was fun watching the basketball. I admit to that, but I
One of these days
heard
I'll
about it.
remember my glasses.
Thank you for the opportunity to present. It's an opportunity, I think, each year to share with you the work that we've done the previous year, and then the work that we hope to continue. Many of the goals are continued from last year to focus our work at the middle school this year. So to start with, I've listed our current members. So these are the current North Reading Middle School Council members. The proposed plan was developed last year, so we had a different, the members remained the same with the exception of there was a different parent. Maria Lockhart was our parent representative for 2 years, and when her term ended, Kathleen Roy has replaced her this year. So Maria Lockhart helped create this plan, and I just wanted to acknowledge her help. So the highlights from last year, some of these may be repetitive from our March presentation, when we highlighted, you know, what we felt were really the proud moments from last year. But just to restate, restorative practices is something that we believe very strongly in at the middle school, and was you know, a highlight last year, will continue this year. It was in last year's plan, it is also in this year's plan. Also, our curriculum mapping work. We continue to ask our educators to put in writing through a very specific understanding by design curriculum mapping process, their units from start to finish in this school year, including a scope and sequence, which aligns just what they are teaching. Obviously, it's all wrapped around the state standards, but we are continuing this year, and last year was year 3 of the curriculum mapping process. Another big highlight from last year was year 1 of our peer mediation process. So we had our students trained. I believe many of you are aware the year, actually I have pictures of many of these of the students. So let me just jump ahead. So our restorative practices, as I mentioned, last year was year 3. We continue to have our social emotional learning lessons, our monthly lessons focused on community circles. We additionally had more staff members trained. And another part of the restorative practices is when conflict does arise, allowing opportunity for students to process through reflective dialogue around what happened, what was the impact of their action, and perhaps most importantly, how to restore any harm that may have been done. And also, as I shared last year in March, we brought the circles to the O'Leary Senior Center, and it was wonderful. And I'm pleased to say that we're going back at their request in December with a new group of students to begin the circles again with the O'Leary Senior Center. So again, that was just highlight from last year with restorative practices. This is the curriculum mapping work. You can see just a little graphic there of the understanding by design process, starting with the end goal in mind and then backward from there to just, again, help with vertical alignment, to help with hopefully with the elementary schools as well, but right now focusing on vertical alignment with 6, 7, 8, and then working with the high school to align the transition to 9th grade. Also, having the curriculum maps in one location we feel is really important. Our goal would be at some point, I'm not sure exactly when, but hopefully sooner than later, to have a public-facing document that we could put on our beautiful new website just to share with families and others who might be interested in terms of the standards guide our instruction, but the curriculum maps really give more detail and show the way that the teachers are making the standards come alive in the classroom. And then there's the picture I was referencing. So those were high school students and middle school students who were trained a year ago in August. Right now, we only have 4 peer mediators, 4 8th grade peer mediators. We intend in the spring of this year to train more students, looking at innovative ways to get the funding for that, but we'll be sending our 4 to the high school, so we need a new batch of kiddos. But we are this year, again, running peer mediation. We haven't used it yet, but that's a good thing. But it is a tool in our toolbox to be able to use as needed when appropriate. And then as you just approved the policy for MyCap, last year was our first year of implementing lessons to students around my career and academic readiness. The year prior was a planning year, so we had a team go through some trainings and then develop some lessons, and then this past year we implemented 3 lessons. This year we'll implement 3 more lessons. We've already done 1. We're using a combination of MIFA pathways, which you can see there on the right, and then also the Naviance is what the high school uses. So we decided this year to train our 8th graders, and they already got their usernames and passwords, and we've communicated that with parents. So we're a year ahead with Naviance, helping 8th grade students with that transition. It's highlighted there with the grant update question mark, because we did just receive, I don't know if it's official notice that we are a grant recipient again, which is very exciting. So that's the 3rd year that we will receive funding to help drive this very important initiative that I tell students, I truly wish that this was available to me when I was in middle school. I think it's that important. I don't think it's too early. I think it's almost too late, but we're doing it, and I'm very proud of this work. So the goals for this new year that are in the school improvement plan are very similar to last year in some regards, partly because we didn't meet some of the goals. And in the school improvement plan that you have access to, at the very end, it has the plan from last year with hyperlinks as to whether we met the goal or didn't meet the goal, with data to explain why I'm making that determination. So the first 2 goals are around MCAS. They're similar to the goals last year because we did not meet the goal in math and ELA in all 3 grades. We met it in some grades, but not all 3. And the goal was that any students who did not meet or low partially met, we used a 485. 500 is passing. We used 485 or below as a cutoff. we wanted to see their student growth percentile in math and English on average at each grade level for those subjects of 50% or higher. And we came close, but we didn't quite hit that. So that is still a goal. It's an important goal. That is our achievement gap, is helping those kids that are not performing at grade level perform at grade level. And each year that we can close that gap, it's going to help them be more successful. So that's why those goals are the same. And again, that data is at the end of the school improvement plan. Science and social studies, as you are aware, do not have a student growth percentile metric because they're taken in 5th grade. Well, civics is only in 8th grade, but science, 5th grade and 8th grade. Mr. Colleen, is there a 5th grade social studies, civics? No, so it's just, so there's no student growth percentile to use as a metric. So we use our common assessment data. So those are assessments that the teachers make that are standards-based. It's a common grade level assessment. So all students in each grade take that assessment. It's kind of like a pre and post, beginning of the year, end of year, and we're hoping that 80% of all students will demonstrate competency. I don't want to get bogged down in the semantics of competency, because I believe that may be a topic later tonight, but we're working very closely with social studies and science to collect that data, analyze that data now so that we can put scaffolding and interventions in place for any student that they are concerned, and through progress monitoring. We want to make sure that by the end of the year, at least 80% of students in each grade level will demonstrate that mastery, competency, proficiency on those common assessments. And then the 5th goal under teaching and learning is just continuing with the curriculum mapping. So this year, teachers are creating another unit. Last year, they created a single unit, start to finish. There's 3 stages in the understanding by design process. So it's very detailed. So this year, we're focusing on stage 2, on assessments. I think that's very relevant and really at the heart of achievement is how are we can't wait for the MCAS to determine whether or not a child is making progress. So the assessments that we're developing, math and ELA are fortunate to have iReady as kind of a dipstick, a tool to progress monitor, and we certainly use that, but we use other assessments as well. But social studies and science are creating their own assessments. And for ELA, we need to create our own writing assessment. Mr. Colleen's been great in leading the elementary schools and now the middle school into a common writing portfolio that students, our current 6th grade students came to us with a writing portfolio, which is amazing and great for us to see their progress and to help them individually. So that goal remains, that curriculum mapping goal remains something that we are working on. And that I've continued to create the goal around to create the goals around NRPS 2025. So the big rocks that you're seeing, teaching and learning, student support services, are the big rocks from 2025. I understand that the 2030 plan, they may change, but I continued to use the previous strategic plan, big rocks. So student support services, focusing on reducing the amount of office referrals. That is a personal passion of mine. I believe deep in my heart that when students are removed from the classroom and sent to the office or sent out of the classroom for discipline for any reason, they're losing instruction time. And that even if the time is made up, it's not the same as when they're in the classroom. So we're really working on building the capacity of our teachers, building the capacity of our school counselors through restorative practices, but also through a new initiative this year called collaborative problem solving, which is under the umbrella of restorative practices to reduce the office referrals. And collaborative problem solving, the real philosophy of that is humans do well if they can. You can agree with that or not, but the philosophy is humans will do well if they can. We could say students will do well if they can. And if they're not doing well, it's typically because there's an underdeveloped skill, a lagging skill. So a traditional punitive response by sending a kid to the office for a timeout is not getting at what is the lagging skill, what is causing the student to have these behaviors. So we're focusing this year on collaborative problem solving to really help get at the heart of each individual child's behavioral needs. And of course, at this age group, adolescent age group, is very challenging, but that's an initiative this year that I'm very proud of, and something that you'll see referenced in the school improvement plan in goal number 1 under student support services. And then goal number 2 relates to the MyCap work. So what we're saying is that students will demonstrate an increase in their understanding of the post-secondary process. Who am I? What am I interested in? What do I want to do? What career paths align with my interests? Where do I want to go to high school? What are my options? Those questions that are at the heart of the policy that you just approved, we are proposing that students will show an increase in their understanding, their awareness of that. And that's, as I said before, it's the right time, and even earlier would be probably even better. So that's under student support services. And then the last area is goal number 1. There's just one goal under this area, is that in the fall, this past fall, we administered a universal screener for our student, getting a sense of our students' social emotional skills. It was sent out to all parents to inform them and to opt out. Many of our students did take the screener. We're using that data we use the data to analyze that across the 3 grades, which is very interesting. The areas of social emotional, the skills that were lagging for all 3 grades were self-management. It's not super surprising for adolescents, but self-management and relationship skills. So we are going to tailor our monthly social emotional learning lessons around those 2 particular skill sets of self-management and relationship skills, hoping that in June, when we give the screener again, and again, parents will be notified, they'll have the opportunity to opt out, that we will see a 10% increase on the average scaled score on that screener for those 2 particular areas. And they clearly relate to all of what we were talking about with restorative practices, with peer mediation, with the office referrals, collaborative problem solving. It's all interconnected, and I would say also interconnected with academic achievement, because certainly when students are experiencing conflict, whether it's internal, external, with peers, it has an impact on their ability to achieve at high levels. Hence why we feel it's important to proactively and reactively respond to their needs. So those are the proposed goals. And again, if you're looking for the data from last year, it's all at the end of the current plan that you're looking at. I'm assuming there are some questions.
Yeah, couple questions, at least to start. Now speaking to the mic. Couple questions to start, and I'm sure others will have some as well. I remember seeing across the district, absenteeism is obviously an issue, and going along with your plan about keeping kids in the classroom. 1, has absenteeism been an issue in middle school? And 2, if so, is there a thought about that as part of sort of attaching to the concept of how do we make sure kids are in the classrooms themselves?
Yes.
I know it's not the same, but there's a relationship.
It's very relevant,
Yeah.
because depending on the reason why students
Right.
are not in school, and we've worked really hard on chronic absenteeism over the last few years, and I'm pleased to say, according to the accountability record for the middle school, we've showed significant progress. We've halved. Haven't committed to memory
Yeah.
the exact percentages, but I believe we were in, say, 12%. I'm guessing a couple of years ago, of students who were chronically absent. I believe we're down to like 5 or 6, and I
Great.
don't know those numbers exact.
No, that's
I know
fine.
there's a reduction. We're receiving all of the accountability points that you can get from the Department of Education when they look at the data. But we are also trying really hard to we have a monthly absenteeism meeting with the counselors, and we have a very advanced absenteeism tracking tool that notifies us when students have hit a number or are getting close to a number, and the counselors will contact home have conversation, have dialogue. Is there any support that you need? Is there anything that we can do to assist? We've noticed, your child has been absent, 10% of the current school year. So it's definitely something we're really focused on and invested in and believe in. That's important.
My next one is for MyCap. Assuming success, what does success look like? And I do assume success. What does it look like in 2, 3, 4 years after it really sort of hits the ground?
We'd like to see students develop a portfolio that they can take with them that might include a resume, that might include interest surveys, that might include career thoughts and hopes that certainly will change. But by the time they leave 8th grade, that they have the opportunity to really think thoughtfully about their options for high school, and not just where they're going to go, but what are they going to take? What are they interested in? That's going to be happening for our 8th graders in a handful of months. And I don't think they're as prepared as they could be if we were doing this work for, historically for, a more significant amount of time. But I'd like to see a portfolio that they can take with them that shows the work that they've done, that they're really figuring themselves out and figuring out what is interesting to them and how does that align with career opportunities.
That's awesome. That's phenomenal. Others want to? Yeah.
Do I need to take that?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Thank you.
Just shell.
Yeah, just going more with the MyCap, I think it's amazing. I have a 6th grader this year and hasn't even done anything but just the different specials that he's able to take part in. He already has 2 new career paths that, I'd never even heard out of his mouth before. So impressed so far. But is it only a 1-year grant?
This is our 3rd year with the grant. So we've had it for 3 years. Beyond this, I'm not sure.
You're
that
not-
we'll
okay,
be
so it's a 3-year
receiving
grant cycle.
again.
Okay.
The high school is in year 2, so I'm sure Dr. Meyer can speak to that, but they maybe would be able to receive the grant a 3rd year. But we're going to do the work regardless.
Okay.
We have a team of dedicated educators we actually had a pretty amazing kickoff through the DESE grant. We were able to bring in a career coach who met with each of the 3 grade levels separately to talk to the kids about MyCap, get them excited. And she spoke to the faculty and asked them about how they became educators and what they wish they knew as middle school students to get them excited about the work. So I believe that the work will continue, well, it will as long as I'm here, regardless of the grant. The grant is helpful.
Okay.
But we're far enough along that I don't think we're as reliant on it as we were in previous years.
Okay. Just looking at it from a financial perspective, though, are we able to apply again for another 3-year grant, or was it a one-time?
It wasn't a 3-year grant, it was each year.
Each year, okay.
Each year separately, and we were lucky to get it each year. Dr. Daly has given me the opportunity to learn about the grant writing process, so I've been working collaboratively with Dr. Daly on that each year individually. I don't know what will happen next year.
Okay.
The other thing I didn't mention, and I should have, that last year we partnered with the community to run a reality fair for our 7th graders, very similar to the 11th grade reality fair, but it was amazing. It was probably one of the best days of the year for me to see our 7th graders, and we hope to do it again with 7th graders. So I know, yeah, okay. I forget. I know 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. So we're going to do it again in the 7th grade in the spring, where they take one of the careers that they've chosen. They're given an average median salary, and then they go through tables with volunteers to say, okay, well, now you've got this money. Where's your rent coming from? Where's your car coming from? Or they're like my adult children, they don't have cars, apparently. Where's your, money for the gym or the haircut coming from? So working with the community has been great, too, with the MyCap work.
Great, it's a great program. And then just real quick, you mentioned for the restorative practice that several staff members have been trained. Is it just counselors, or is there teachers being trained, or?
The year prior, we opened it up to anybody that wanted to be trained, and we trained, I would say conservatively, we've trained 12 non-counselors. We also we're working with consultants whose business is restorative practices, and they've come and done all faculty sessions. They've done individual grade level sessions. They've worked with our paraprofessionals last year. So we're providing opportunities for outside help, but also we've had our professional learning communities. There's been a dedicated PLC for the last 3 years on restorative practices so that staff can learn together too. And we hope to continue that again this year.
Great, thank you. These all sound great.
Oh, and then, I'm sorry, one more thing with restorative practices. It's a little late. We should have done this sooner, but we are doing it. I just haven't communicated yet. In December, we're gonna have a virtual opportunity for parents to join with myself and Mr. Michael Hirsch to learn about restorative practices, to hear about restorative practices, and maybe help reinforce some of the language and framework at home as well.
I'd love to know that. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
One before I pass the mic to others, I'm sure. One thing I just want for the greater public that may or may not be listening. I mentioned it our last meeting and probably the meeting before that. Another great example of we don't have a separate grant writer. The administration of our system does all of that. This is revenue opportunity for our schools being generated by people in our schools. This isn't just about, oh, everybody, sort of gets what they get and that's about it. We actually try and generate revenue opportunity where we can without looking for outside help to do so. So I just wanted to use that as an example. So thank you.
Great.
Just to answer the question, it's official.
Yes.
So we're actually accepting it tonight. It goes through a whole process, $14,000 for year 3. The funding is really so that we learn and investigate and understand it. Some of it in the past has been used for some of these programs. The state's really investing in this, so anything that is out there, we would continue to apply for in the future. But I would fully expect the program to continue with the groundwork that we've laid over these 3 years. The tools that we're using are free. The lessons are going to be developed and they can be repeated. And we've Kathy's worked it in that, they're kind of building them over a year. So by the end of this 3-year period, we'll have a curriculum for 6, 7, 8, and then we're building that in high school as well.
Thank you for the presentation, Dr. O'Connell. Couple quick questions. Number one, on the teaching and learning goals, number 1 and 2, where they have to, you're trying to
Yeah.
get 50% of,
Yeah.
I think, the underperforming students. Can you just quantify a little bit, like, are we talking about dozens, hundreds, single digits of students, just to kind of have an idea?
Yeah, at each grade level, it varies,
Correct.
but I would say if we use the 485, probably a dozen at each grade level. Again, in the notes at the end, I don't think it quantifies, well, I think it does quantify the number of students that we identified and the percentage of their average student growth percentile. I think I put the numbers in.
Yeah,
Definitely double digits.
I mean, it's just, again, it's just so hard when you do well to, like, those last few students are just so hard sometimes.
That's why I believe that's where the focus needs
Right.
to be, on closing that achievement gap for those students. And the growth percentile, I think, is the way to focus, because you're looking just for them to grow exponentially so that they can close the gap with their peers.
And then, can you speak, this is a little bit off topic, but it's always budget season for us, and so, just because this is the first quarter we haven't had, the language and, the computer science program, I'm just curious if you can give a quick little update on sort of how the new program went and what you're seeing, if you've seen any students, disappointed in it, or how's the new program going, because there was a big budget cut and
Yeah.
have the 4 language in 6th and 7th grade
Yeah.
now, so I'm just curious.
We have world cultures.
Right.
We have world cultures, and I would say there's a big difference. It's sort of comparing apples and oranges. So the world cultures program in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I think, is going well. I think it's quite a pivot from what we had been doing. As we get into 7th and 8th grade, it's more of a focus on Spanish. So it's less about, different world cultures, but it's definitely not the same as a full year of Spanish would be for our 8th graders. So I think it's premature to determine the impact of that. I think the high school will feel it when our freshmen come to them and take Spanish. They'll take Spanish 1. It's going to be different because in years prior, we've had some students take Spanish 2. So I think the biggest impact is in world language. I think computer science, and I'm very pro computer science, I think we're still offering robotics, we're still offering computer science, and we weren't offering the computer science in 8th grade as a full year like we were with world language. So I think the impact is still there, but I think it's a little bit less, maybe less noticed by the students. I think the students, if they were here, would say we miss the opportunity to take Spanish. And it isn't to say that they're not, but it's a semester in 8th grade versus a whole year. So I think that that's where the biggest impact is.
I think you're being wonderfully polite. But thank you.
Going back to the growth percentile for ELA and math, look, just kind of going over the numbers, it looks like we have an opportunity to meet that goal.
We're very close, yeah.
What obstacles or resources would you need to be able to make that a reality?
An academic interventionist, that would be lovely. We have a Title I person coming in to help with ELA, and I've seen more than 1 year, doesn't make a trend, but I've seen a little bit of an increase in our ELA scores, and you can't correlate that to the Title I support, but we shifted away from Title I math a few years ago to Title I literacy based on the data analysis. Literacy seemed to be where we should be focusing, and so we've kind of done that. So as the pendulum shifts, now I saw a little bit of a dip in math, which concerns me. So if we were to have an academic interventionist that could target math, and our math teachers, would advocate for that support as well, I think that would help. We continue to use our extension block as much as we can, like our MTSS model, which I think was successful. Just looks a little bit different now that we're using extension block, but having more resources, more skilled professionals to work in small groups with our students to give that targeted intervention is, I think, what we need. Braden did have a question. Do you still?
Yeah, I still have a question.
As a former NRMS student?
I have like 3 questions, I think, if I can remember them all. One of them is because I know during my time in middle school, we didn't have the senior center, so I was just wondering what is the impact that it is having on students that are using it?
Students are going to the O'Leary Senior Citizen Center. That's over behind like the baseball field. Well, actually by the library, closer to the library, right? I'm not sure if it's the big white building up on the hill.
I think I remember.
So students are going there and having community circle meeting, basically just talking about life. And I think it's impacting students to help them realize they're not that different from senior citizens. And I think that the senior citizens are realizing that middle school students are not scary, and they're also have similarities to, so it's an intergenerational project.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, it's pretty special.
My other question was, because I know you have this world cultures class now, and I remember in 6th grade, a lot of our time was spent on ancient civilizations, and I was wondering how that, those two contrast each other, because there should be a difference if there is still world culture.
Yeah, there's a little, so there are a little parallel between the world cultures that the teacher is focusing on in grade 6 with what they're learning in social studies. And I think of it differently as overlap is good, and having, in middle school, we really like the idea of connecting disciplines, connecting contents, so that students can see what they're learning isn't in isolation in one class, it actually is relevant in another class. So when you do math and science, for example, it's like, whoa, wait, you do math? Yes, we do math. So connecting the 6th grade social studies teachers talking to the world language teacher about what they're covering and making connections, and I think is helpful. So there's a little bit of overlap, but not a lot.
Okay, that sounds good. And then my last question was about like MCAS and English grades, because I remember hearing somewhere that like in the nationwide, like statistics are dropping for math and English, and I was just wondering how like we are combating that at the middle school.
Well, I would say if you're staying for the whole meeting, I believe that Mr. Colleen is doing an MCAS presentation, so we'll save that one for Mr. Colleen.
I actually have to go.
Oh! Well, like I said, we're using we're using all of our supports. We do have a Title I person helping
Yeah.
with English, helping with literacy, and that seems to be working. That's why I was saying it would be helpful to have a similar position for math.
Okay, thank you.
It was good to
so
see you,
much.
Braden.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Great questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Just if I could, Mr. Friedman, to answer Mr. Sutherland's question, I totally agree about the interventionist. I think that school adjustment counselors, we're hearing a lot about at all levels, especially where there's not a full-time. And sort of the elephant in the room, as we see Michelle here tonight with the STEM coordinator position to be able to focus on math and science, the equivalent position on the humanities side that we don't have. So, a few years ago, you kind of gave us the charge to bring that forward, and I hope we continue to try to balance that out, to have a whole curriculum leadership model fulfilled as we intend this. I think those are important ones.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Thank you. I
Really
appreciate the opportunity. Do you want me to pull up Dr. Myers?
Yeah.
We won't haze you because it's your first one.
Okay, I appreciate that very much. I was going to say, you used all your questions up for Dr. O'Connell, right? So, good evening. I'm really honored to be here for the first time presenting something that's very important to our building as well, the school improvement plan. And really what we are focusing on here at the high school is growth and equity. So we wanted to start off by taking a look back and celebrating the achievements from 24-25. And the key message that we have is that we're building on a really strong foundation of positive results. So when we looked at the 4 core academic areas, specifically ELA, math, science, and social studies, for ELA, they successfully used focused lessons, resulting in approximately 80% of students meeting expectations in reading. And this is based on a school-wide rubric that they had utilized and implemented across in all of their courses, and doing small group interventions and things like that. So that was really wonderful to see. Math had developed and implemented 3 common assessments across all courses to measure problem-solving skills. And the great thing about that was that problem-solving skills was an area of weakness that the department had noted when they were doing their data work. And for the NEASC accreditation process, curriculum work and starting the building of common assessments was a big piece. It was one of the goals. And so they had really worked very hard on doing that. So those were 2 great things for the math department. Science exceeded their growth goal in analyzing and interpreting data, with baseline scores increasing by an average of 0.68, which was really super because their goal had actually said that they wanted to increase by 0.2, so they tripled that. And that was done through various interventions as well. In history, they implemented new content-based assessments to gauge student ability in reading analysis and content knowledge. The great thing up here at the high school that I really enjoy is that English and history departments work very closely together. They utilize the same rubrics and they work on the same things. So when they do their work on reading and writing, they're doing it together, and they analyze a lot of times their assessments together. So we had identified our area of opportunity as really focusing on equity. And our commitment to equity is that we really want to ensure success for all students in the building. So what the departments had done was started analyzing data from 24-25 in regard to their common assessments and the work they had been doing, but also incorporating, last month we had done MCAS data analysis within our departments. And the data from 24-25 showed that students in our high needs subgroups demonstrated less growth in key areas, like ELA writing and social studies, math and science MCAS, than the other student groups. Specifically, the high need subgroups were the students who have 504s and IEPs. So the big questions for us became, what are the barriers that we need to identify and overcome in order to ensure success for our entire student population? And the second question is, what are we going to do to ensure that our high needs groups demonstrate effective progress this school year? And then thirdly, how will we do things differently to address the needs of all of our students. So our 24-25 goals are the same as the ones that for this current year. We did tweak them just a little bit based on the data the data work we had done over the year, or over the summer and into the fall. And so we had really looked at aligning our focus areas, those goal areas, on the 2030 strategic plan. So really community, culture, and connection. Thank you. I always forget the third C. And then the other pillar is student success and growth. So as you can see, the MTSS and individual support goes with student success and growth. So by the end of the current school year, we're hoping to measure and monitor the implemented MTSS strategies for individual student learning, growth, social emotional well-being for all students. And that's really across all departments. You'll see later on that different departments choose different parts of the measuring and monitoring the MTSS strategies. Assuring quality has to do with our NEASC process. So as you all know, we had our collaborative conference visit a couple weeks ago, October 27th and 28th. They were big days here in the building. And so it's really about assessing the findings of that collaborative conference visit to emphasize quality assurance and institutional excellence. So the team here, the staff, had done a really fantastic job last year on their self-reflection report. NEASC, when they came in, had sat down and had reviewed the self-reflection report and then went into classrooms. They met with many different constituent groups, parents, students, administrators, and they agreed with the findings of the self-study, and they also added in a fourth priority area for us, which kind of will go along with all of the work that we're doing in regard to common assessments and curriculum planning. The third goal area remains in MTSS and individual support, and there we are implementing the best practices of blended learning and effective use of technology, focusing on the relevant data to achieve equity for all students. And that really is, so one, we're doing the measuring and monitoring. Two is how we're actually doing that. So our fourth goal area had to do with student voice and connection. So there we are implementing and incorporating opportunities to access student voice so that all students feel valued and connected to the school and to the community here, with emphasis on lifting marginalized voices. The great thing is that we've already begun that work this year. In the beginning of the year, the school counseling department sent out a survey to all students asking them to identify a trusted adult here in the building, with the hopes that every student will be able to identify at least one person. So if they struggle with any kind of issues here in the building, that they can then go to that person and have questions answered or just have conversations, whatever they need. And then our fifth focus area has to do with Power Block. So we'd like to continue the focus group work for an inclusive review of the Power Block model at the high school, leading to continued recommendations for the current school year and moving forward. So there was a repo team that was established last year that was repurposing Power Block, is what that stands for. And the committee had made several recommendations, which we actually put into effect this year. The curriculum leaders were great and had met with me over the summer to kind of share some of those results. One of which everyone will have noticed, there was a change to our schedule that was made. Originally, the Power Block was separated into 3 separate times, about 20 minutes, and it was really difficult to have that be an effective use of time for any kind of interventions and or extension work. And so we took away the 3 lunches and put it into 2 lunches. That way there's a 40-minute period of time that's now utilized for interventions and extensions. So I think that has gone pretty positively so far from what I've heard. You guys agree? So those were our 5 goal areas that were started last year and will continue this year, as I said, with some of the tweaks based on the data work that we had done. Excuse me. So now I'd like to look at the departmental goals, which is really the action steps for each of the departments to adhere to those 5 different goals. So ELA and social studies will continue to disaggregate and analyze their data by subgroup, specifically the students with IEPs and 504s. to set specific increased growth targets for those groups. Math is going to measure and monitor the MTSS strategies to improve student proficiency by at least one proficiency level and implement best practices of blended learning to achieve equity. The blended learning for math, they are starting to use the IXL across all curriculum, across all courses except for pre-calc, calc, and AP classes.
Pre-calc honors.
Okay. Mhm.
And we need
Yeah. So, and the great thing about the IXL, I had actually used that in a previous district, and you can use it as a diagnostic in the beginning of the year, and then it has monitoring tools. So we're really implementing specific practices for students. It's really personalized and differentiated for students for whatever their target weakness areas are. So that's for math. And then science, they're going to continue adapting the common assessments to collect targeted data on analyzing and interpreting data, aiming for at least a 0.6 gain in this proficiency area by leveraging the blended learning. I believe they're using the EduLastic. Yep, so, which is all standards-based. The analyzing and interpreting data is actually science and engineering practice number 4, I believe. There are 8 of them, and so that is all aligned with the curriculum, mass curriculum frameworks. In regard to curriculum development, we also are utilizing the UBD template as a middle school. So by June 26th, world languages, digital learning, visual arts, and performing arts will each have developed and documented complete course curricula using the UBD framework. And that's to ensure clarity, coherence, consistency, and alignment across all courses and departments. Our goal eventually is, as the middle school, as Dr. O'Connell stated, is to be able to put that on our website so that it's transparent, so people can see what we're actually working on here in the building. In regard to the student growth, social emotional learning, and data-driven practices, PE and health, school counseling, and special ed departments are going to implement their targeted data-informed strategies to support student growth, achievement, and social emotional well-being. And so along with that, an example for school counseling would be that they are implementing in 9th grade, they're doing the PHQ-9, which is working on depression. It's a depression inventory that they're, a screening, a universal screening that they're doing with the 9th grade. So they're doing lessons with the screening, and then they do targeted intervention work with any students who have scored high on that screener. And then in the 10th grade, they're looking at an anxiety scale and doing similar work. They also have, what's great is during our power block time, our school adjustment counselors and school psychologists have 2 days set aside on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They'll be doing different SEL lessons with students. They're working on coping strategies and kind of life hacks is what one of them is called. So, you know, it's great for, that's for universal, so any student can enter that one. For the more coping skills related, that's more of a tier 2 intervention. So we're starting to increase those kinds of interventions here in the building for SEL work. So our key message is that our plan is a unified effort to ensure that every student, especially those most in need, reaches their full potential while they're here at the high school. Our closing guiding question was how can we maximize the power block to attend to student needs and reinforce our school improvement goals. And our forward commitment is that we're really excited to begin this work collaboratively for a really highly successful 25-26 school year.
So you're pretty bored.
Yeah, there's nothing going on up
Yeah,
here.
not much going on. I want to start off with a couple questions. The disaggregation of data is wildly interesting to me. First off, the fact that it doesn't, from the very fact that you're stating that, means it hasn't been done before, or that's where it was, which is surprising but not really. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, it's an interesting data issue. I mean, obviously, what you state in here is you want to use that data to be more targeted. Are you also, what do you expect to see, like in terms of patterns, in terms of, because I would imagine the data of 504 and IEPs is going to be wildly diverse of like different issues to solve, and it comes down to, it could come down to just individual issues, and I'm sure it will. But are you looking to see if there are patterns there? Like, what are you expecting to see out of that? Because obviously you're doing it for a reason and or many reasons, and I'd love to know, to dig into that just for a few seconds, if you don't mind.
Sure. So I have the former special ed hat.
Yeah.
So I'm always wearing.
Yeah.
So for me, it is really important that students on IEPs who have the IEPs and or 504s are able to access the curriculum in a way that they can come away excelling the way our gen ed population is. And so for us, when we are looking at the data, we are looking at different classes and how different lessons are structured and how they will be implemented. But in addition to that, we are able to pull out on an individual level where students are really struggling. So when we looked at the biology data, for instance, we can actually look at individual questions that certain students are struggling on, and then we can see if they, in addition, do they have an IEP or not, and like, how do we need to break that down even further, and what strategies do we need to implement differently that may not have been to date. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Michelle?
I think what we're trying to do too is focus on the equity piece of it, to ensure that regardless of a student with an IEP or 504, they have the ability and the necessary tools to be just as successful as the gen ed student. And so that's why we're bringing in blended learning, to make sure that we have all the tools available to them as well.
No, that's great. And of the many things I like about this, I like the overlap between middle school and high school and the work you're clearly doing together, and especially the equity work, especially my cap's in here. I mean, there's just so much overlap between these things. I will ask the Tim question because, why wait till the end?
How do you know what I'm going to ask?
Because you're going to ask what is going to prevent you from meeting your goals.
Well, so Dr. Daly already addressed part of that.
Yeah.
So for us, having, I think someone in Michelle's position for the humanities side, on the humanities side, would be really helpful. So I'm just going to do a shout out for Matt and Evan, have done incredible work in regard to data analysis and interpretation and all of that. That takes away still from what they are able to do with their group in regard to targeted interventions, I think. I think they do a great job with that, but I think that would even open up the scope even more for them and give them more time to focus on different areas with their staff.
Excellent.
In their departments.
And welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Excellent presentation, very thorough. I really appreciate it. You mentioned implementing and incorporating opportunities to access the student voice, and you've already done a survey. I think that's so important. What else are you planning on doing, or is that still in process?
So it is still in process, but one thing that we have started working on within our departments is we're going to be starting to create semester-based courses, which I'm very excited about. I think the staff is as well. The students definitely are. I heard that from kind of every constituent here in the building, that, we've never had semester courses. I'm like, I've never seen a high school without them. So it's really a wonderful opportunity for students to choose, if I want to try art. I'm not an artist, but I want to try it, but I don't want to be stuck in a certain one for a full year.
Yeah.
If you're not good at it, or if you just are not interested in it, it makes it for a long year, right? So if you can do semester-based courses, they can try different things, and then they can get to different levels, and so that allows them to excel even more in certain areas, which I love. I love to push everyone to whatever they can. So that's another big piece for us. So we'll be starting to have semester-based courses in every department for next school year. We're going to be working with courses that we already have developed just to start with, to pilot it, and then from there, people will hopefully start coming up with ideas for creating new courses. I know that when Evan and I were talking, that we had talked about the possibility of maybe in senior year, instead of having just 2-year-long classes, having, Shakespeare could be one, and then World Lit could be, we could have all different, we could have drama, we could have all different options that students could take. So.
Oh, wow. Okay, so not just specials, all types of courses.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes.
And then you said how can we maximize the power block? It seems like switching to the 40 minutes really is maximizing it. You're still looking at what to do with that, or?
Yeah, so I think I think the 40 minutes is great. It's a good start. I think that it would be helpful for us to, like NHS is going to try to start tutoring now during that period of times, which I think is phenomenal. So we're going to have students working with other students during this period of time. So that's something that's new for us. So I think it's more a matter of what different opportunities can we offer during that period of time.
Okay.
Besides, you know, like there are a lot of students who may not need to have intervention work. You know, they might not need that time for that. So what kind of extension work can we offer to them? What can that look like? You know, another great thing here in the building is that our internship program has grown from 30 students last year to 75 this year are out doing internships, which is phenomenal because they're able to pursue their passion areas. Like, oh, I think I want to try this someday, or before I go to college, I want to try this. And so it's an incredible opportunity that they have here. So that's building too. So it's kind of looking at all of that for student voice and choice, and then Power Block, how can we utilize that time to kind of push along the other things?
I love that. Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. I don't have anything really smart, but I'll just say a real basic question. I think a lot of this is based on students that are struggling are not progressing as much. And I'm just curious, just generally, I mean, how much? Just for everybody that maybe isn't an educator. So students are already behind, and they're falling further behind, basically. And so I'm just curious, like, how much further are they falling behind? I mean, is it dramatic, or is it pretty close where it's like we can kind of keep up? Because I didn't see any numbers in here, and so I'm just curious, like, how close it is versus, you know, the average student's growth.
So it varied in the different
Yeah.
areas, and so in, you know, math, I think, was our biggest discrepancy, where 30% of our students on IEPs met or exceeded expectations on MCAS, whereas 78% of our gen ed population did. So we have some work to do in that area. So I think with the implementation of the IXL and the different supplemental pieces that we are going to be implementing in the classroom, that will bring us up. You know, in science, I don't think it was quite that large.
We were 43%, 79%.
Yeah. So we do have some work to do.
I mean, I think just from we talk a lot about budget all the time, and one of the things we continue to say when we make cuts is we continue to cut the support pieces, especially at the younger ages. And so just like my fear is, this is exactly what's going to happen. And it's great that you're trying to combat it because you're seeing it already. But I just have fears when we continue to cut, you know, paraprofessionals in kindergarten last year. And it's like students that have special needs are already behind. And if we're not addressing them early enough, like, this is just going to continue to compound. And it's just scary. I mean, that's the reality where we're in, is the most, you know, at-risk students are the ones that need the most help. And I appreciate the administration looking at that, but it's really an issue that has to be far before high school. I mean, the issue starts at a much younger age, where if kids are falling behind and we're not able to get interventionists in at the elementary schools, because we've heard that from the elementary principals over and over again, that we need reading, you know, interventionists. We need things at the youngest ages. And by the time you get to high school, we should still be working on it, obviously, but it's like, the problems are going to start, and they're going to get so much dramatically worse if we don't do something about it. So,
Well, add to that, from a cold budgetary perspective,
Right.
it ends up costing you more.
correct, it does, and so
The short-term
savings, yeah,
benefit impact of a cut
right,
has a compounding effect of loss, of financial loss
Right.
down the road, much less the impact it gives.
Right.
So, yeah,
yeah, okay,
just
so-
echoing what you're saying in
Yeah.
a lot more words.
yeah, okay. Tim, anything?
Only one question.
No, I don't have much. You guys both have educators that write you questions beforehand. Come on. Your wives, I see you look at your cliff notes from your wife.
Exactly.
What's Janelle write on this one?
I know. So first, I know. I guess really to commend the elementary schools, middle school, and high school. I think for me, what I liked seeing in all of the plans was the notion of community and belonging. And we talked about this a lot with the elementary school principals about you know, it's a proven fact, right? When students want to come to school, when they feel like school is home,
Yes.
they will perform better. So I like seeing that in all of the plans, and not only that, it's very consistent, but I also like that all the approaches are very different on how to get there, which speaks to the different ways that we can try to find how we're going to make school home. So very much appreciate that. I guess the only, you know, a lot of good questions here, and just kind of looking through the detailed plan, this is a very robust, I think, plan, a lot of lofty goals in here, I think. And unlike the elementary school and middle school, you kind of have a multivariable problem here when you're trying to figure out how to close the gaps. Do you have the targeted areas that you feel like you're going to be able to go after this year? Because I know you're going to collect a whole bunch of data, and you're going to come back next year, I think, with here's where I think we need to go. But do you have a notion as to where you're going to start this year? Top one or two, without going into...
Yeah, I think, I mean, for science, math, it's all the problem solving. You had identified one specific area for math, and I can't remember what it was. It was something with a circle.
We're looking at specific standards within the math and science curriculum that we can build into every class rather than, the way the curriculum is typically, MCAS is given before the end of the year, and there's a lot of curriculum that's introduced after this MCAS exam. So we're trying to build into our block schedule where this can be introduced periodically far before the end of the year. That's one area we're going through in science, looking at the science and engineering practices. This year we're looking at, this and last year we were looking at interpreting data, data analysis, reading graphs. That directly impacted and showed some success in math as well. So those two areas are complementing each other, just like they're doing with science and social studies and ELA with the writing and the reading. So working together as a team on these goals, even though their content is different, the problem-solving skills and the way of thinking critically is the same. And so we're just introducing it periodically throughout the year earlier, so that they're seeing it infrequently. That's just one task that we're going to address.
Which goes along with the higher order thinking skills that NIASC had identified.
And the
Authentic learning is, yep. Yeah. So it all ties together. So although it's lofty, it's all tied together. So we're hoping that we can at least get close to our target.
I think I'm good.
I could just say to thank Dr. O'Connell and Dr. Meyer for great presentations, for everyone that was involved in this process. As Mr. Simon said earlier, we had a great ceremony last week. So again, thank you both for everything you did to set that up and for doing this. And I'll make the joke publicly I've been making with Dr. Meyer all week. She will never have to be a first-year principal with an NIASC accreditation and a 10th year anniversary of a high school building project all within the first month and a half of school. So thank you so much.
Determination.
And the competency determination coming down the pike from the DESE. So it's quite a start to her career here. So thank you so much.
You still had the pandemic, Dr. Daly, so you
Yeah.
still
But thank you.
Thank
We
you,
do-
everybody.
Disaster people that are coming in, so.
Just a reminder, we do have to vote separately on the two.
to accept these.
Yeah, so we have to vote to approve each of these plans. Can I get a motion to approve West Point Middle School plan for 26?
Motion to approve the North Carolina Middle School Plan 25-26.
I have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, so 4-0, approved. Motion for the,
Motion
we
to approve the high school plan 25-26.
have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Approved 4-0. Thank you very much. Thank you again for wonderful presentations, and more importantly, the work that goes into them, which is phenomenal. So thank you. Now back to our seats.
International trip, Mr. Friedman?
Yeah.
Really need to get get a screen right there. We should, because we have them up there, we should get a screen up there so we don't have to go in the crowd, to be able to just look up.
Like when a conductor in a pit, you can see like the monitor for the
I
stage.
know, like, you should be able to, a screen somewhere, so you don't have to go in this crowd.
Have you sit in the front row?
I know.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm Evan Nosey. This will be our 10th trip that we're proposing here. We lost a couple to COVID, but we started doing this in 2015. So this will be 12 years of trying to go away and often succeeding. And for this trip, we are proposing going from Italy to the Czech Republic. It's the closest I could get from Milan to Minsk, if you're a Seinfeld fan.
Yes.
So this will be over April school vacation, and we have a. Is doing this? Oh, it's like this. Sorry. These are the same goals I presented the past several years. Just the goals of the club we have. This is Mike Votto, a math teacher at the high school, and we run this together. And they're the same ones we've done, and over the years we've kind of refined it a bit where they get these things from the travel piece, but we've also added in a few other things that we try to do with the kids, and we've implemented starting in 2022, we started these small group discussions to give the kids a chance to really kind of communicate about it and think about it, where they share some highs and lows, they talk about things that have impressed them, things they're remembering, and we really encourage them to share and have these discussions. And we tell them it's a life-changing experience, then sort of making them think about it as one in small groups. So that's something we do. Some highlights, some past trips. When some kids ate scorpions in Beijing. They made some chocolate in the Amazon that was disgusting. And then there's these other moments too where things sort of happen. We're in a parking lot while the bus had to get gas, and some kids and Mr. Votto start playing hacky sack, and we look around, we're in the Dolomites. Or we were walking through Copenhagen, and we saw these kids playing soccer, and then we had half the girls' varsity team with us, and we destroyed them in a soccer game. So little sort of moments like this that have always been highlights, and I tell the kids, like, this is the stuff you remember. Not, oh, I saw the Coliseum, or, these are the memories they have, which is pretty cool. And same with us. So for this trip, we will be going from Florence to Venice to Salzburg to Prague, with some small towns and cities sort of on the way. We have some guided tours in there and some cool experiences with those cultural things that are always really pretty cool for the kids. And we do try to work in some free time to give the kids a chance to be independent and have those experiences that they can then share out in the evening. And then just a couple of quick facts here. The price is about $4,500, which is still more or less in line to what it's been the past several years. That includes the insurance the kids need to get. They're responsible for lunch on their own, and then they have to tip the guides and our bus driver, things like that. We do have scholarships available, and over the past 10 years, there's been, after this year, there'll be almost 400 kids have traveled with us. We were in Greece last April. We're going to Portugal this April. This will be our 21st, well, I guess no, we've gone to all these places, but this will be Austria will be our 21st country that we've brought kids to. And we have 40 spots, and they need to remain in good standing leading up to and throughout the trip.
Are you keeping track of your miles?
Yeah, right?
Seriously, you should figure out how many miles you've done.
Far a lot, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we've been some cool places, very far.
Fun.
It sounds like an awesome trip, if nothing else, ambitious. My wife would hit me if she didn't say, "Do you need chaperones?"
Common question. Now, we do bring teacher chaperones that we organize that the fall of the trip, usually, like in the end of the school year, end of the actual year.
This is great. I mean, I don't really have much to add. I think this sounds awesome.
Yeah, it should be a good one.
How many chaperones do you bring?
It's 6 to 1, so for every 6 kids we get 1. So if we have 42 kids, we bring 7 adults. Plus a full-time board directors with us the entire week.
Great.
How many students show interest? You said a spot up to 40. Do we turn students away?
There's been trips, yeah. I mean, there's been years where the trip is filled up in a night, and there's been trips, like this year we're bringing 25. So it off and on, I think the destination has a little bit to do with it, and sort of like the group, the class. We don't bring freshmen typically, so it's sort of like who's in the school at the time. But yeah, there's a pretty high interest level. I think the kids get excited. They know that it's a thing that they can do, and I think there's a level of excitement there.
Couple quick questions. Same company organizing it again?
Yeah, we use EF.
And any lessons learned from them over the years, or has it continued to get better?
I think it's
No
continuing to get better. I think we have a pretty good relationship there. We've had the same like rep that we work with. This is like actually a custom trip that we put together with our rep. So we have a pretty good relationship.
And again, my only comment was just going to be to thank you, because I know, it's the teachers that put the time in that make these successful, and so just seeing the same people over and over again doing it, like, gives us a lot of confidence. I think we don't have a lot of questions because you've been here before, you've answered all the questions before, so I think there's a lot of, a lot to be said for the continuity, so thank you.
Yeah, definitely. It's really, really fun. We're very lucky to do it.
Yeah.
I won't share my highlights or lowlights of my trip to Italy when I was in high school. That's probably not the way to go for this meeting. No, this is great. I don't, anybody else have any questions? If not, could I get a motion to approve the spring 2027 international trip?
Motion to approve spring 2027 international trip.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0, approved.
Great.
Enjoy.
Thanks very much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right. MCAS. Woohoo!
Fun.
I guess we're going back, yeah.
Go
I
back
think we
out.
should probably go back out.
We need a screen. We really do.
Yeah, but that's still awkward too. Then we're
No,
sort
but
of-
even if it was just a screen bring up here or something, right in front of Charles, so I don't have to see Charles. Let's put it, or right in front of Cindy. I'm just kidding.
we need glasses that we can just put on and just show, like a heads-up display.
Usually get everyone's way.
You're good.
This is up here as a. Yeah. is that okay?
Good evening, thank you for having me. We're here to kind of go over a few things with MCAS results released early this fall, accountability, and talk about some of our goals for the upcoming year. This is our annual presentation as we go forward. You got to hear some of the growth statements from both the middle school and the high school and the work that they're doing with intervention and supports to move a lot of our subgroups. Last year, we talked, kind of work on our student learning goals for multiple years for the district. Last year, we started really focusing on early literacy. You heard Dr. O'Connell talk a little bit about some of our work on writing, and then really focusing on what Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions can look like and what those supports could look like. And then a little later on the agenda, there's not much in this presentation. We'll make the connection back to the competency determination policy. Just our quick one-on-one, like when we go out and we celebrate how well our educators and our students are performing on MCAS. They have what they would use as the accountability system, which they will give us a normative component, which they compare our schools to like schools. So they take a lot of things into consideration as far as class size, per pupil expenditure, all those little details through there. And then they set targets for us. So it's helpful when we look at our goals that we're able to look at what targets the state sets for us to be able to work towards and make those happen. For the normative component, we get a percentile assigned. It's weighted by the years. And for the criterion, we get progress towards targets. So you'll see these like when you look at your school report cards, or if you jump on the DESE public site for your district lookup to find the information there. For using the 2025 data, here's where all of they do not assign district accountability. They only do it by schools. So you can see all of our schools are performing at a very high level. The little school at 95%, the hood school at 95%, the bachelor school at 99%, the high school at 82%, and the middle school at 86%. It's very, very impressive to have a set of schools with that high of an accountability percentile, and they continue to work on their targets to continue to improve. One of the hard things for the middle school as well is the like schools cross over, because we're classified as an elementary school or non-high school. You can get compared to some of those schools as well. The progress towards targets, this is where we continue to work with our interventions and the paces through here. So you can see where we're going. This has everything to do, especially at the high school, it gets a little bit trickier because it has everything to do with chronic absenteeism, number of students taking different so there's a lot of different details that go into their targets. But they'll continue to work there.
Mr. Green, what was your comment about the elementary and middle school crossover? I didn't understand that.
So middle school and high school, although I do think on the accountability part, they try to compare to middle school, but they don't tell you who they're comparing to, like as far as where that is. But in all the other data that's released, it's consistent with the elementary. So K to 8 are all designated as non-high schools. On the criterion reference targets, this is just one example. Of course, I picked a positive one to share. There are areas that some places that we still need to work on. But it gives you the average scale score of our 2024 achievement, where we were in 2025, and how that works towards our targets. So this is a ELA for non-high school, so this would be reflective of the elementary schools and the middle school data. And you can see you have the recovery path. So when you see the word recovery, that means from the data from 2019, pre-pandemic, they then would set our growth data to be set to return to that or exceed each year. So they kind of give us targets to be able to move forward. So when you see the number of points on the right, you can see in so many places that we exceeded the target or we met the target. And then that is how the math goes when you're looking at that. So sometimes you might see 1 year on a growth area, you might see 0 for 4, because in that 1 year, that test group, that cohort, performed lower than the year prior. That would be a 0. So it's just data. We have to be able to manipulate it and understand it to kind of move forward. Getting a 0 doesn't always mean it's a reflection of something negative that's happening in the schools. It just sometimes is that cohort there, depending on, you have to look at it a little bit deeper. Now, for the district itself, this is the fun part. When we look at what we're doing and what we're doing well, we kind of, in the state, for this past year, this year's grade 6 students, so last year's grade 5 students, finished number 1 in ELA and science. Science is a repeat from last year. ELA is a real success story for us and the work that happened in that class, and math too. So that cohort of students really performed well on the assessment. And then the state hasn't released. You've seen the DART districts before and what that looks like. The state hasn't updated their DART district compares, but with Open Architects, which is a software platform that helps us navigate the data, it's really user-friendly. We've been able to load last year's DART districts and then some of our neighboring communities just to see where we are. And these are just some of the highlights of grade 5. We talked about grade 6. The Tide 8 math, 9th math, that's in the state. I'm sorry, those are the district performances, the ones there. These are state numbers. Everywhere in our DART districts and Open Architects, I must have deleted a slide, is a lot higher, because we're number 1 and 2 in most of our stuff that we did in our DART districts. So I just have to go back and see if
Why don't we pause there for a moment?
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
It is.
And by the way, I'm quoting you of, it's just data, we need to manipulate it to understand it.
Thank you.
I'm totally quoting that. This is amazing. And without pausing on it, I just don't want it to go past. You're being modest, and that's great.
No.
That is amazing. So great work to the entire team, like everybody, top to bottom. Thank you.
And it's our students, remember, they're on the other end of that, taking this test seriously, working hard and going through there. And I am always careful. I do tend to go, because data can tell you a different story the next day.
Mhm.
And I hope that my presentation would be very similar. Like if that data was there, it's understanding the data that's the most important.
Yep.
Not to go off this, but you want to get off the success slide really fast, I know, but, so, just want to make sure, because I read this when I was reading it over the weekend, and I paused on this slide. I want to make sure I'm saying this out loud, and make sure I'm understanding. We picked 17 towns, including all the surrounding towns and some other ones around there. Our district performed either first or second in ELA, math, or science across all of those towns.
That is correct.
Okay, just making sure.
I have trouble believing you beat Westwood, my alma mater, but okay, I'll take it.
No, Westwood would be the one that is probably somewhere else in some of the places as far as where that is.
All good.
Mr. Freeman?
Yeah.
Just a question. Mr. Clean, is that district performance, is that 3 to 8 or 3?
That is district performance, that's the district that be across.
So it's sort of overall.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then the bottom part of the slide is comparing it to the other 319 schools.
That's from the state.
Everybody.
So it's all state average, and the.
So that's what I did,
Yeah.
I'm summarized, because we did have the slide that
Yeah.
broke it down by grade level and content to show how well we
Mm-hmm.
performed in each one, and I found it to be a little bit redundant.
Yeah.
So I summarized to the district one.
And I'll just clarify, it's my math on the, when I say T4, tied for fourth, if there's, 2 for third, 2 for, there might be 12 districts,
Yeah.
but it's like the fourth highest score.
Amazing.
That's how I'm looking at it. The number ones are the number ones, and then I say it's 4, not 6, because there's 2 other districts at 5, 2 others at 6, and we're tied for 4. Does that make sense?
No matter how you slice it, it's
The same
incredible.
number.
And I can say with pride, you had to stop the slide somewhere. Everywhere it's top 10%, as far as where we are as a district and in our schools and our content. The state has been really, this year especially, been talking about that pre-pandemic data to let you know. For better or for worse, 2019, I can say this because I was here and I've been here before, was probably one of our greatest assessment years in North Reading. To see, just right here, to see 80% in grade 3 ELA meeting or exceeding expectations. I would love to get back to that 80%. As far as that number, that's a goal for us in the work that we do. And so in the state, when they released the MCAS results this year, they promoted a lot of communities or districts that had done some work to return to pre-pandemic performance scores. I have no problem about where we are. I can see in 2018 that our scores can look like 2025 data. I could look at 2024 data and see places that we were outperforming 2025 data. So I feel like as a district, we're still, we're past that pre-pandemic issue. We're still responding to students' needs every day. And with that, so the state went out and kind of announced X amount of districts that had met that pre-pandemic data. Since then, they've reached out to a couple of our schools, both North Reading Middle School with Dr. O'Connell and then Little School, and they were invited to attend a Celebrating Academic Success conference in the beginning of December, inviting their teams to come down and propose potential sessions or ideas that they could share best practices with colleagues and other districts that come down who are looking to see what our district did to help our students return to that level. So it's a huge recognition from Pedro Martinez, the Commissioner of Education, and the work that the middle school and the little school have done this past year to achieve that. And I think we looked at that data and found multiple spots where they hit pre-pandemic. They did not get the state, like the Boston Globe credit for the pre-pandemic data, only because there might have been 1 or 2 content areas or grade levels that they did not hit that target. So that's something that's another thing to be very happy about. In October, in our half day, actually pretty much once results come out, our teachers start looking at what available data we have, both from the MCAS, also any type of diagnostic tools that they may use, whether they be commercial or made in-house. And they start to work on looking at that data to best understand it. We charge them with finding things to celebrate first, which wasn't that hard for them. But we want to make sure they recognize whenever you look at data, it's very easy to jump to what you're not doing well or what you want to do better. But you have to take time to recognize what you did do well, and especially when we're setting so many student learning goals through EdAval, our school improvement plan, our district strategic plan, we really have to take a look at where that is and recognize the work and the success that we have in the classroom and in our schools. Our curriculum leaders do fantastic work with our departments and grade level teachers to identify some of those strengths and weaknesses, focus areas. That can both be from curriculum, what we have available of what we're teaching from. It also can be instructional practices of what is helping our students be successful. And then we create our little data teams within that to review the grade level and department trends, just to make sure that if we identify things that are consistently improving, what are they, document what they are so that we continue to maintain those practices and also challenge ourselves. And that's the hard part of finding where you want to be able to do a little bit better. So coming from the unified response from the teacher leaders and the educators and the work they did at the high school, which you heard very much as part of the school improvement plan, they're looking at the math interventions, using all available data that they're creating, both tier 1 and tier 2. So when you hear that, that can be in the general math class on how we're supporting students differently in there. Math and science reading comprehension across content areas, that was something that the educators thought that they might want more professional development on to help students kind of focus on the reading comprehension in content areas like math and science. And then also kind of taking this data that we understand from MCAS and starting to understand what the competency determination could look like for our high school students with that MCAS being removed. At the middle school, they're going to continue to focus on stage 2 assessment, which we talked about with the curriculum planning, the deeper learning and the vertical alignment that happens between grade 6 to 8, but also the transitions. The middle school has 2 transitions. We have grade 5 coming into grade 6, where we have the 3 different elementary schools coming into our 6th grade program, but then they also have the transition from grade 8 to 9. And then a large focus on the extension block, which Dr. O'Connell mentioned as well, with the MTSS options and how to use to provide more content time for students on learning and interventions. At the elementary schools, we're going to continue to do our work with curriculum review, especially in the early literacy area, and then writing as well, focus on the horizontal and vertical alignment, K to 5. And then we're going to start to look at our math data a little bit more. Eureka, our curriculum, has been revised and retooled to a new brand. We're trying to figure out what's going to fit for our district. And then you're going to hear that need for academic interventionists a lot, especially from the elementary schools. That's where we want to see a lot more with early literacy and math, and then to be able to go forward, get back some of the things that we used to have prior to coming right out of COVID. And then for us, when we talk about MCAS, the messaging really needs to be the same for our district and our community. We still see it as a very valuable piece of data that gives us information about our practices and our students' success. So even without the competency determination associated with it, we need to be able to use that. So we need to encourage our students to be able to continue to do well. We need to encourage our educators to understand the importance of the assessment and be able to use that feedback and where we go. We'll continue to review our graduation requirements and competency determination policies. And then it's still being used as a data point for scholarships that are available through the state and the seal of biliteracy, which still uses a competency determination there for English, which I think will transition eventually. They're starting to talk about that now. For student learning goals, we want to see our early literacy increase by 10%, meaning exceeding, that's a large number for that. Focusing on our instructional materials, which are in place, but to continue to monitor the progress of Haggerty Phonemic, Foundations Pre-K to 3, Foundations has only been in grade 3. This is the second year we've had foundations in grade 3, and Wit and Wisdom K-2. Continued professional development for our ELA teachers on structured literacy and the science of reading, and then the tiered systems of supports, to be able to look at that. And I talk a little bit about targeted support there, meaning at different times when we talk about the academic interventionists, all the staffing we do is by building. At times, I think it's okay to have staff that can be transient to meet the needs of students by where the data is telling you. And so when you look at the early literacy for 24-25, this is just a composite for a DIBELS, which is one of our benchmark assessments that we use. So the red is really where we're looking to reduce that, so you can see the success that we've had to be able to do. That's a result. We have a district data team, so I do meet with the K-5 ELA leaders at the elementary school, and we're starting to document and prescribe interventions and focusing on the zones of growth, meaning if you score within a certain performance threshold, the district's response is that that student gets this, right? So it's consistent in all 3 elementary schools, and using progress monitoring to be able to measure that growth over the time. Things that we've been trying is trying to find out how to provide more targeted interventions. The state's come out with different opportunities as part of grants. Last year, we had some math tutoring that was virtual. This year, we're getting ready to apply for some early literacy tutoring that may be virtual in person. We also tried a little bit of the state's funding for summer academies. Like some of that acceleration work has gone away. Last year, we did allocate a small amount of money to try a couple of early literacy camps for some of our students that might have been performing in the red towards the end of the year of last year, to keep them involved through there, and we're watching them as that progresses, the data through there. And then this is our beginning of the year, so you can see this, and if you took that 50 by 75%, you would see where that would go. You notice, one of the things that I pick up on, when over here at the end of grade 1 in 24-25, 186, that's 15 students right there. When I come over here and I come back, that 28, that's that regression piece that really troubles me. As far as we're always trying to catch up that in early literacy where we are. That's why some of that summer work is, if we could ever do it, if we could ever replicate what the state was offering, or make it a little bit more accessible all summer versus 1 week or something like that, that's something that I'm struggling with in a concept or a design to see if we can impact that number.
Mr. Blake, is that against a different standard? Because I know with think that IXL is like in first grade, and where you are first grade curriculum beginning, end of the year. So you would assume you'd be better at the end of the year because you've learned the curriculum that year. Is it the same thing where now you're resetting, or is it just like, is it like a continuity?
That's a great question. The target words do increase, but I would still want the performance threshold to be the same. So I don't think it's adaptive like progressive to move it that way. Like same thing with IXL and iReady. I know exactly what you're saying, the grade level standard to the end. So, because our data would flip the other way. Like when you look at iReady at the beginning of the year, you see a lot more yellow. Is because they're working towards the grade level, so you see the green at the end. Where here, this is kind of saying more like if you look at the beginning of the year right now, how many kids, so core is really, that blue and the green is really where we want to be. We want to move that yellow and red. Good question. And then student writing performance is something that we have been working on to measure growth over time for student writing. That's the hardest one. Like I think when it comes to the reading, the math, the science, we can do test. Writing is a little bit harder to measure growth over time. So we have tried to create what we call a student writing portfolio that starts to collect on-demand sample tasks annually. And my hope is that it will go from grades 4 to 10 through competency. So when we're looking at students that might be at risk or part of a pre-referral process, or we're not sure where that growth is, we have multiple samples to be able to compare where a student performed over the course of years. And then tiered system, that's all we keep talking about, is how to best meet the needs of our students through MTSS. We really, for the past 5 years, focused on tier 1, making sure that all students are receiving high-quality instruction with materials. Now we're really kind of starting to really focus on what that tier 2 possibilities could be. At high school and the middle school, we've talked about what those could possibly look like. And at the elementary school, we are trying to become a little bit more uniform in some of the things. They have the freedom to provide their interventions as their schedules and their resources allow them, but to kind of build minimum expectations for students who are identified. So I know that's a lot, in a little bit of time, but I'm happy to try to answer any questions, and if not, I'll ask Dr. Meyer to do it for me.
I'll start off. First off, super petty. You got to make the fonts bigger. You got to make the fonts bigger.
Which ones?
Yeah, basically everything.
All of them?
Yeah.
Everything? There?
Going back to some of the data, the pre-pandemic versus slide
got you.
9 of 24. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know where I'm going with this. It's interesting that the grade 3 is so much lower. I mean, obviously there's some pre-academic impact. There's going to be pre-academic impact because at some point it's going to age out. But that they're still seeing that level of impact at grade 3 pre and post. I guess I just wasn't expecting it to be quite that high for that young of an age group, but I can see why.
Yeah, yeah.
But like it just I wasn't expecting it. I should have, but I just didn't.
And just a quick reference, because
Yeah.
this is exactly how we look at data, and that's
Yeah.
why you go back. So like I pulled 2018 and 2017
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
data through there, and you can see that that's more consistent. So I almost
Yeah.
look at that third grade cohort with that test that year.
Maybe that was the
to be
anomaly.
Similar
Yeah.
to kind of like, I want all of our students to be number 1 in the
Sure.
state all the time, right? But I think that on that performance level, that might have been more of that outlier, because you can see 16,
Yeah, I did see 2018,
65 and
2017.
there, yeah.
Yep. And it's much more in alignment with that, but it's just, but still, even statewide, it's not just us.
No.
Just interesting. What surprised you or didn't surprise you about this year's data?
I think nothing surprised me. I know the quality, the work that the teachers put in.
Sure.
In our systems, and the students continue to, I worry a little bit more, performing so well, like, watching the growth that the middle school has made, and through the programming changes that we had to make to the budget where kids were losing opportunities.
Right.
Not only that, their class sizes increased in their core academic areas. So things that are, make everything just a little bit harder. Like that's what we deal with. Like, so when we deal with our budget cuts, we lose things that we depend on to help students learn. When they go away, we get really, really creative to do the best that we can. So your anxiety is always that students start to suffer. So for in 1 year to be able to look at data and see where we are, because I felt coming out of the pandemic data, if I went back to 22, 23, I felt like our teachers came back, we built systems, even through COVID, that our students didn't take that hit that a lot of districts did. So I'm feeling pretty good about where we are.
Oh, I think you should feel pretty good where we are.
But it's so I guess pleasantly surprised always, because it does take that one test, one data, one opportunity to collect.
Yeah, I'm not, there's a triumph of Achilles. I'm not worried about us being successful and then dropping off type of thing. I think it's worth celebrating where we are, and I think your goals to maintain that or to continue to see improvement are fantastic. I've got like a bunch of questions. Why don't I hand it off to someone else and then come back to me, because I need to formulate in my head a few things.
So at the elementary school level, obviously, everything was excellent, and you said people are trying to replicate the consistencies across the schools. Are the principals or curriculum leaders already meeting to do that?
We do, I mean, administration meets all the time. Every school has their own response and systems in place, and we're not in that need to come in and tell them exactly how to respond. Plus, they're all different, right? The enrollment's different, the number of class sizes, the schedule's all different. The curriculum leaders meet regularly, so that's where I get a lot of that information of where we are in their grade levels through the curriculum, what directions we want to go. So that comes back, and then we all work together there, so that is happening.
And then this is just more of a general question, and I'm not sure if it's for you or for the principals over here. I know that the MCAS are a valuable piece of data, but what is the general atmosphere or consensus amongst the teachers? Like, how are they feeling about this not being a requirement anymore?
The requirement piece, to be honest, I think that I'm going to take a risk here and say that because it's now the responsibility of the district to determine what that competency will look like, I think that if I did a blind, anonymous poll, I think most educators would prefer that MCAS data as the competency
Yeah,
determination.
okay. You think so? Yeah.
No, that's great. Great question.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Legislating by ballot.
Yeah. What do you guys?
I guess so one question would be, well, one followed by the other, I guess. So I guess pretty much exclusively across the state while you're on that chart there. I mean, scores drop, I know you are, right? But scores kind of drop, I mean, somewhere 10, 20, sometimes north of 20% across the state, yet roughly half of ours are higher, and then the others are either pretty darn close or just below. So what are we doing differently? Because that's a pretty stark contrast to the state.
Yeah, I mean, remember, North Reading is a small community within a large state. So when we take a look at what we have to manage and what we control, I feel like our educators know our students by name. I think when we're looking at data, we're looking at individual student data, like the middle school goal, you're getting down to 12 kids in an 8th grade level that you're saying, what can I do differently for these kids to make a difference for them? And I think sometimes those numbers are just higher. We have I think the support from the community is usually pretty strong. I know the financial responsibility is getting more and more challenging everywhere. So it's that little balance right there is going to be important to monitor. That's kind of how I feel. We always kind of hold our standard a little bit higher where the state is, and when we see that get a little bit closer, we ask a little bit questions, just knowing some of the things that we can control. But that's about that.
Right.
And I think sustainable leadership, starting with Dr. Daly all the way, I mean, we just had 2 new principals, but we haven't had, I was like the youngest, not youngest, less veteran principal for a while, and I've been here, this is my 15th year, so sustainable leadership helps a district.
So I guess then part 2 of the question is, we've just gone through all the school improvement plans, elementary school, middle school, high school now. Although very little had to do, I view the MCAS as, you have a handful of days that you're taking a test and you can get your kid on their best day or their worst day, and that's one static point in time. Yet none of the improvement plans really reference the MCAS. They reference improvement, but we're not really going after the MCAS as a target. Is there a notion that by utilizing all these other tools, we're preparing the students for this one test without using the test? I guess a roundabout way of saying, we don't seem to be teaching to the MCAS test. We seem to be teaching to all of the standards using all these different tools, and we're seeing the results. Is that a fair? I'm just trying to put all this together, because really none of the elementary principals, really nobody's really talking about this test. It's all the other tools that we're using in between. So I guess I just wanted some clarity there.
Yeah, I think that that's exactly what it is. We focus on that. This is one piece, but now we're trying to create multiple sets of data that we know. So now if we look at one student's score, and it might not be where it is, but we have 6 other data points that says the student does know how to do this standard, we're good.
Okay.
we're moving on, like as far as that, we're not gonna beat that.
Rather than
horse.
dwelling on that one test score.
Exactly, we're trying to, that's what I feel like.
And yet our overall test scores are wildly good,
Well, I think that
which is like,
that might be
yeah.
indicative of why
Yeah.
the scores are going up, because if they know how
Yeah,
to look at graphs.
exactly.
We're not just basing it on that one day. We're saying, no, we're pretty confident in that. We're gonna go move on to somewhere else in the curriculum.
That's exactly what Ms. Caulfield did, was looked at the curriculum item analysis and saw what standards, there might have been 3 questions on that circle plot that she was talking about was standard, and kids might have gotten X amount right, but they're gonna look at where it is in the scope and sequence. How often do the students see the material? How often are they demonstrating that they understand the material, so they have a better chance to perform?
Okay.
Yeah.
If I could, just to echo that point, it's interesting that you say you don't see the MCAS. It is in there, in the back of everything. MCAS is a test of the standards, and it's a test of our curriculum. And when we do this well, if we're teaching the standards, MCAS is going to take care of itself. That's sort of the philosophy that governs everything we do. But we spend a ton of time, and the reason why I would say we are where we are is because of the effort everyone puts into never resting on their laurels, looking and drilling down to figure out where those gaps are to increase. We appreciate that you give us this time to present. We were presenting late. But that's because we're not presenting, the principals look at this data the day it comes out. Sean and I look at it, we have conversations. What he's presenting tonight is a unified response that starts, every single teacher has looked at that data from MCAS and from all other data points, and they present a comprehensive presentation at each school that Sean and I go to, and the teams of teachers with the leadership come together and say, where can we improve? What are we doing differently? And it's really about using the data to get to those questions that Dr. Meyer and Dr. O'Connell had about what are the barriers, what are the problems, where are the places we can improve? Because if we improve those areas, it's going to help students across everything. It's going to help them in their classes, it's going to help them with grades, it's going to help them in life, and the end result will also be they'll do better on the test. But it's one test on one day, and we're not going to bank it all on that. So thank you to Mr. Kleen for a great presentation and for all the work he does to really bring this alignment K to 12. So thank you for that. It's really
My pleasure.
much appreciated.
It's a joy.
Buckley?
So, Mr. Clean, I can tell you don't want to talk to us much because you put like 5 of your nights usually into one presentation, so you just slide us all by.
All the time.
Get them all out of the way. So I'm going to just go macro level. I'm not going to zoom in. I don't really want to dive into 7th grade ELA in 2019, but very high level. Accountability, I think I've said this before, I think it's one of the dumbest things we have to look at, because we get to the point where it's 4 kids underperforming and your goal is to get 2 of them to perform better. And I get the idea of accountability at a lot of districts in the state, but I think it isn't that appropriate for North Reading, maybe my personal opinion, but our test scores are so high that I don't put too much weight in accountability. It's great that we're still working on it, and yes, we should look at every last student and try to get them across the finish line, but at the same time, we get down to just such small groups that the accountability data doesn't mean too much to me personally. I think the MCAS scores are fantastic, and everybody said it's just a metric. I think it's great. I think you guys kind of said it, or I think Dr. O'Connell said it, where what I was just going to say is the 2 things that I see the most from that is the recovery from the pandemic, and I think just looking back, there are so many decisions we had to make, and nobody knew what we were doing, and I think everybody just did a fantastic job, and I think more than anything, it's a report card on that we all pulled together, and people, the educators. I mean, again, I remember negotiating contracts with teachers about coming back to school, and so many teachers were you know what, we need to be back in school. We understand that a lot of people are saying maybe it's not safe or whatever, but the teachers did it. Dr. Daly had great leadership, all the principals did, and so that's the biggest thing that I see from the MCAS is just the recovery in the last few years. And then just overall, I just think that the numbers just show overall the work that is being done every day. The only question that I have more is about, we talked a lot about Dr. Daly just talked about how the administrators and the teachers, everybody's aligned. What about to the students? One of my kids comes home and knows what her iReady score was at the beginning of the year and end of the year, and she's proud of how she's progressed in the iReady. And so it seems like some scores are being shared with students and others are not. And it wasn't the same for all of my students. Like, I know we as parents get the MCAS score, and I go through it with my kids, and again, like, it's not like a big thing. It's not like I'm, giving them an ice cream cone because they, whatever. But like again, I want to show them that, but I'm curious, like, what information is ever shared with students? I mean, obviously it's like to the educators, but it's just interesting that some of my students have said, oh, I know what I got on my iReady, and I know what my progress was, and then others had never mentioned that before. So I'm just curious how it gets down to students, if it does.
I would say that is a school level, and I'm gonna take a step further, and it might even say classroom level
Decision.
response as far as that goes, because most data, we don't try to put more pressure on the students about that. So if that data was being used to celebrate a child's growth, great. But that would be my guess.
Is that all it is,
that's
like
used
here
right
and
now.
there? Yeah.
I would say that we just talked about this at the administrative level a little bit too, though,
Right.
just about how we're using these resources and sharing them, and there's different schools of thought, and so we're thinking through that to talk through philosophically the role of this information, how we communicate it, and what it's used for. But it's a good question.
Right. Yeah.
For example, the dibbles with the early screener guidance, if you're in grades K to 3 and you score in that red, that composite red zone, we're notifying families that their child performed at that level, and we're telling them exactly what we're doing to help them.
I just wish there was an MCAS question on, can you like click turn in on the stupid project thing? Because my kids apparently can't score well on that because everything, like, I did the work, I just didn't push turn in, so.
Compliance.
Likely story, Buckley, likely story.
It's their story, not mine. Back to you.
I just, I think I've said what I wanted to say. I don't really have anything else on it. I don't mind waiting a couple extra weeks or whatever it is to get the level of data, regardless of what it is, regardless of how the scores turn out. So I'm not concerned with, I think we may have done it this 2 weeks earlier last year or something. I don't care about that.
I think it's well worth it.
Exactly.
From the return that we get from our educators and what they invest in. It does help me too, to be able to look at, for example, I wouldn't have necessarily picked up on the professional development for reading comprehension in the content areas. So now to be able to work with Michelle Caulfield and be able to look at what is out there to bring in for our math and science teachers, I would have missed that opportunity if we went a little bit too fast. So
And-
I appreciate that.
No, and I will freely and fully tell you that the one thing I was texting, if you saw me on my phone, was telling my wife, next year you got to be here for this. And as an educator herself, she's got to be here for this. This is phenomenal. It's nothing other than to say what I've already said. I deeply appreciate the work you all have put in for this, and not just the results, but the work to get here. So thank you.
There's a pride of the data at all the schools, and it's shared, and it helps to drive us forward, so. They put a lot of work into it. We've created data leaders at each building. We have our curriculum leaders with data experiences, our principals. We've got through-line goals, and there's just a lot of ownership of making it meaningful.
It shows.
Yeah.
It completely shows, beginning to end. As someone who deals with a lot of data, financial data, and all sorts of data, as we all, I'm sure, do, it's just the level of effort that goes into this and the results you got out of it are fantastic, so thank you. I would clap, but it would be kind of ridiculous just to have me clap, so well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We might do the CD this way too, just,
Okay.
there's a lot to look at. I think.
What'd you do?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I just want to think about how we already bring it up.
Did you draft
This is
it?
my little trick now to get it up.
I hated that too.
Sorry,
It's
I
good.
disagree with that, sorry.
Yeah, now we're into the first reading.
After this, though.
So, I'm just gonna make sure I'm sharing. I'm putting you back on. You gotta do this one.
Well, I can do as much or as little as you want me to.
A policy subcommittee.
Why don't we make that a tad bigger? I mean, I'm reading on my screen anyway, but like, there you go.
How are we doing? How's that?
Awesome.
Want me to start?
Yeah, go for it.
So what we've ultimately done here is we've updated policy IHF. So last year, we wrote policy IHF and delegated a lot of the responsibility and the nuts and bolts to the school, where the principal would bring forward changes to the school committee through changes to the handbook. I still think that's a great way to do it, but because we have to have this now approved at the Department of Education as a policy, we've now incorporated all of those pieces in here. So this language is very similar, and we've just stricken the language we had from the past and replaced it with similar language. Some of it recommended, some of it we identified and updated for Massachusetts, for North Reading. We combined, again, the concept of the local graduation requirement and the competency determination. We then added the local graduation requirements. Mr. Kleen and Dr. Meyer worked to get this into a grid. So it's the same information, 28 credits, earning a 60% or higher, but it lays out all of this information. So the idea here is that this language of the policy would almost be cut and paste and dropped right into the handbook so that it's the same. We do have a few notes in here. We added a couple of highlights that might not have been in your packet. I'll just speak to what those are. We just wanted to make sure we captured these other pieces, that there are 4 years of these requirements, and there's some language about what they can do in their senior year, which might be different now if we're going to do half-year courses, which is great. Mathematics, we also have Algebra 2 in an additional course. We did note here and just clarified, the only course that could be accepted for middle school would be the Algebra 1 that's taken in 8th grade. And we do mention the CD here. Additional course in science. So this sort of lays out all the requirements with some notes just to be considered. And then these are all the same pieces. When we updated this policy last year, we added in the history of genocide, the civics action project, clarified about their physical education requirement. That's been in there for a little while. Then we added this language last year about competency determination. So it's very, very similar to what we approved last year, but a little bit different. Mr. Kleen's been working with the curriculum leaders this year and Dr. Meyer to really think about this piece here. Not only do they have to pass a course at a 60 or better, but they also have to demonstrate mastery. We're thinking of that in terms of a final assessment for a course, but there's also the possibility of a capstone and portfolio, and also there are equivalent measures that can be determined by the high school principal. So it gives us a little flexibility here if needed beyond the typical.
What would that number 3 mean? Like, 'cause, I mean, I get it's sort of a catch-all,
Yep.
and I agree with having something like that, but what would that mean in a practical level?
So one example would be if a student transfers in and it's not, they didn't
right.
pass our assessment.
Right.
Are we going to make them sit for our assessment, or are we going to be able to look at what they did
Okay.
in another school? There may be some other alternatives for some students that might work. I don't know if you had another example.
No, our ML students, we have a little bit of flexibility with students who are learning English as a second language.
No, get it.
Be able to go through there.
Awesome. No, I appreciate the examples.
And these courses, I highlighted here just to have a little bit of a discussion. We've always been a biology district with MCAS. You could take different assessments. We said that. My thought in highlighting these here under science strand is that we continue to focus on biology. I think chemistry or physics could be used, but I feel like that might fall under that number 3, if someone transfers in or someone, as opposed to having all of these other variables. I think we should limit what can affect whether you graduate or not, and keeping that to biology. That was my thought. We haven't shared that with you yet, because this is coming up. So as part of a first reading, these are things that I just wanted to put out there for discussion. Similarly with the U.S. History 2, I think that's a part of it. I think there's going to be a lot to it. But I think the requirement is only around U.S. History 1. And so, yeah, and just try to keep that focus. So those are part of what we're discussing here. We're still gonna have the assessments, we're still gonna measure, but as far as having to, for a student who doesn't, for whatever reason, we're not gonna have a lot, pass that assessment at a certain rate to graduate, we're gonna have a lot of different mechanisms and processes in place to help them get there. And so if we don't add all these extra things that they have to do, we can focus on those students that need to pass the things that are required. So that's a suggestion that we have there.
They're there as placeholders too, so this conversation was valuable because we have to discuss the anything that we tested in 2023. So because districts had choices of which science, bio, chem, whatever, that's why they're part of that policy right now. But I agree with Dr. Daly that I think that that conversation of lumping that into 3 for the same reasons that if a transfer came in sophomore year and didn't take biology and they're in chemistry, they could take a chemistry.
That makes sense.
Determination.
Big piece of this that Mr. Clean worked on in coordination with our student services and special education, adding in considerations for students with disabilities, English language learners also, students who enroll late. And then we had to outline an actual appeal process, like what actually would a student do if they want to appeal the decision. We want to have very few students in this appeal. We want to have most students passing through the regular channels and then also through the alternative methods. But if a student is in a position where they need an appeal process, again, this is all something that used to happen through the state. We now have to do it locally. So we had to identify what that is. So again, none of this was in our previous policy. This is all model language essentially from the state that we've adapted slightly here. And also the process for students in classes 2003 through 24 who did not earn a diploma, there's a process for them to follow. And we've put many of these things already in action, but this is now just writing it into the policy. So questions? Yes.
What is the notification at different points in time that's provided? Like if, just to make sure that parents know that like a student is meeting the expectations or not meeting the expectation?
To that level of detail hasn't been determined yet. I think that when we're looking right now at that final, one of the things that we're really trying not to do is to make a lot more work for our students. So we're trying to make these final assessment components to be organic. We believe that our tests, we're testing the standards and being able to find, but the tough thing is making sure they're consistent. So if you're in academic grade 9 English and you're in honors English, there's going to be a core set of questions that are going to be on both tests, but that final test might push that 9th grade honors student a little bit differently through there. So once that we know where that is, we'll work backwards on the communication system through there.
Well, and just to kind of follow up on that, like, I guess in the old days, if a student passed the class, they knew they met the, graduation required, local graduation requirement. And if they got a certain score on the MCAS, they knew they met the competency determination. So now if a student passes one of those classes that's approved, is it understood that then they met both requirements just by passing the class, or no? So that's, I'm wondering, like, as a parent, like, how do I know that my student passed the class, but they met the competency determination?
Yeah, and I think this may be what you're getting at. There was a difficult conversation that needed to be had with MCAS, with parents at a certain point about whether their child would pass MCAS or whether they would be moving to an alternative portfolio. That still needs to happen and will continue to happen in the same way. We do hope that some students may be able to achieve proficiency, maybe not through a standardized assessment, but maybe through a capstone project, maybe through an alternative method, but there are going to be some students that probably will not be able to demonstrate mastery at that level and would not be able to earn their competency determination. So again, the ballot initiative did not eliminate the competency determination, it just eliminated MCAS as that measure. So we still have to have a measure, and we still have to communicate out whether some students may not be trending in that direction. I believe that's.
Yeah, that makes sense. I get more nervous about the logistics sometimes when we talk about them, like what does that look like? 'Cause we haven't, even like administering the test, like there's different things that we need to think about to do that. We're just not there yet. This is the policy part that we need to submit to the state by some of this stuff we need to submit to the state by 12/31.
Yeah,
And this is still a first read. I mean, yeah.
But my concern about that, though, is like, I think the policy needs to have a little bit more in it for me to feel comfortable with it, frankly, because it just like, again, I'm just thinking from a parent perspective, like, I can't tell from this, and I know there's probably gonna be regulations or something or other, things more than this, but like, I just can't tell from this, like, what it is means to do meet the competency determination and still, and.
You want more
I'm confused
determinism?
reading it. What was that?
You want more determinism?
Yeah, I mean,
Predictability.
I think the policy should at least be able to be clear enough that a parent can read through this and know that, like, if a student's not meeting this or whatever at the end of every year, they'll know that. Like, I think the policy has to be at least clear enough that a parent can understand, like, okay, at the end of the 9th grade year, I'll know if my student's on track or not, and I can't get that from this policy. I read it like 3 times, and I still don't know if my student has met this or whatever, and I think that's a concern that I have with the policy overall, and I think.
Yeah, so that, for a lot of students, the courses that are listed here, they may not be in those courses.
Okay.
So if they're not in those courses, that might need some clarification, right? The second part would be the final assessments. So I think there's going to have to be like I said, those
Right.
conversations around those assessments as they come into place about whether the student is passing those assessments as they go, or whether they're not going to be able to pass that assessment. And those assessments are going to be the same across courses. So whether you're in this class or another class, or if it's called English 9, at any level, it's going to be the same standard that's going to be measured. So,
I assume other districts are having similar struggles here.
they are. and
Yeah.
And
Like,
I
we
think-
can't be
I think
alone.
the policy is macro intentionally.
Yeah.
Because there's still work that needs to be
Yeah.
done behind to actually
Right.
build those systems.
And I appreciate that, but even at the macro level, I think I think this policy is lacking in some basic things that I would want to see in a policy.
Like what?
Like specifically, at the end of each year, there'll be like students will be able to know if they've met this requirement or not, because I just can't tell if, like, my kid's in a class, like, I just can't even tell if they've met the competency determination. Like, they were in 9th grade, they passed their math class, does that mean they hit the competency determination or not? Like, I just can't even
But they'll get the score from the assessment. So if they get a 60 they get a 60 in the class.
Yep.
And the class is one of the classes that's listed here.
Right.
That's part of the requirement. The second part is going to be number 1, 2, or 3. And so they would get some kind of notification if they're not there. And from there, we would then be putting them into some sort of support system.
So you're saying you want a notification in the policy?
But the course grade is not the same as the final assessment. Or it is.
I think you want. The way I interpret what you're saying, and tell me if I'm wrong, you want to know, you want a predictable, deterministic way of knowing,
He wants MCAS back.
well, of where any given child stands. So, or at least for the parent's sake. If not for the
We
student.
don't say exactly how it happens, but like, I can't tell from this language that, like, I read it and thought, like, okay, well, if they pass the course, then that's the final assessment of the course. But now you're telling me that's not the case, that, like, so, like, if they get a C+ in the class, on the final and the overall final, grade is a C+, and it was one of those classes, but that still might not be the final assessment, because I know sometimes it might be a modified class for the student or whatever, but, like, if they're in a modified class, does that mean that that's not the final assessment? Like, that's what I can't
Yeah.
tell from this, is, again, I just think it needs more clarity, like, if it's a modified class, or like, if the final assessment, to me, is the final grade in a class, but you're saying that final assessment is not the final grade in the class, and that's, I guess maybe when I'm talking through it, that's what I don't get, is like, the grade and the assessment are 2 different things.
Yeah.
And that's not clear to me.
I asked a similar question, just because right now, we don't have a target number in there. It doesn't say you have to get an 80, doesn't say you have to get, so sitting for the assessment, right? So it's that word, it's successful completion.
Right.
And we're still developing that. And
Right.
remember, the state is also proposing possible year-end assessments and year-end targets. So that still might come out there. So we're writing this policy so that we are compliant with what they're asking us. This is am I gonna say this, am I not gonna say this? Similar to the 3A, MBTA, like, we want to be compliant with what the state's asking us to
Right.
do, even though we want some wiggle room in there to change it.
Well stated.
But in a
Similar to
similar way,
3A, we
this,
have till 12:31.
we need to write this policy in such a way that it'll get approved by the state for being in compliance, but we don't want to go so far to pin it down to a certain process that they're just going to come in and say, oh, it needs to change and it needs to be something else.
I would love to, I mean, and I guess I can do my own research. I don't need you guys for this, but I would love to see what other towns, how other towns are struggling with this. Because I can't imagine it's cut and dry.
Some
like-
have gone, the larger urban, well, I don't want to steal your thunder.
I mean, it's, I think that you have discretion to go whichever direction you want.
Yeah.
We're looking at this, we really wanted to have an understanding of what our students understood and what they showed,
Yeah.
what they could show us from what we've done. So we're kind of holding that expectation to where that is. It may be different in English 9 versus geometry, like that's where we need a little bit of flexibility, in going through there.
I will openly say I'm a little less concerned with what Mr. Buckley's saying. I like the flexibility, but I do agree that it might be a little too squishy. But I'm not going to go quite as far as saying I need that level.
I just feel like if a student gets a C+ in a class, and you're saying to meet the competency determination, must successfully complete, in accordance with the grading policy, a final assessment for a course. I would think that if you have the C+ in a class, that automatically means you meet the competency determination, but you're telling me it doesn't, and that's why I don't.
Every class that you're in high school, your syllabus will tell you how much your final assessment is worth of that grade.
Okay.
So it's not reflective of that grade. And with our grading policies, as what they look like, to go through there.
Okay, so you're saying the final exam, if they have to pass the final exam and they have to have the okay. So you're saying the final exam, okay.
Assessment exam.
It's not just the overall, okay.
It's a non-MCAS MCAS.
And I think
Yeah.
the challenge here, and this is what makes policy subcommittee so much fun, is,
You're still the newest member.
I know, right? It's probably one of the funnest subcommittees we have, because this is a lot of the conversation that we had. I think part of the other challenge
like to be in the
that I want
fire
to
station.
make sure we recognize too is, it's a little bit unfortunate we have to add this in policy from the standpoint of, I want to be a little careful because we're already in a financially constrained environment, and we also don't want to create an environment where we're going to spend even more resources, expend a lot of resources to find out and put these woefully complicated CDs in place at a time when the state hasn't provided a ton of guidance. So I think this is really what we discussed is this the middle ground to get us going while the state figures out, is there going to be a bigger picture solution moving forward? And what do we want to put in place now to be aligned with the state, to understand that there will be more guidance coming?
When do we think we will get more guidance from the state?
So
6
there's-
weeks, 6
there's
months, 6 years?
Public hearings right now on some of these proposed ideas around end-of-course assessments, which I believe if that were to come through, it would trump our own assessments.
Yeah.
I think we're still a ways out, and so some districts are taking a just do the course piece of it. I think that's a missed opportunity to really look at what we're doing with we're giving final exams anyway.
Right.
Why shouldn't those final exams measure some kind of mastery in a course? And we're really using this, it's a lot of work, our curriculum leaders are doing a ton of work, and it's led by Mr. Clean and our principals. But to say, what are those expectations, and what does mastery look like? So we're talking about possibly pieces of that assessment too. And so we're trying to figure out, what are the key things that measure mastery in that course? Because I don't think getting a 60, the score that's there just to pass is really the competency standard. And I think some might do that and it might get approved. I don't think that's the spirit of what's in the legislation. And I think it goes against what we're trying to do here in North Reading with everything we do. So,
Do you feel like the state, ours is due by the end of this year, is that? Yeah,
calendar year.
calendar year.
Yeah.
and the state has got hearings now. I assume they're not going to make any level of determination until they start getting things in from,
They're gonna
from the
approve
districts,
this or
start
not.
taking a look at that, and then seeing what everybody's doing.
Yep, they're gonna make sure we have these components to comply with the law.
Right.
And I think we could go very low bar. I think we could go, this gives us the flexibility. That's how we saw.
No,
the
it makes
best of
sense. I
both
get-
worlds.
I-
It gives us the ability to kind of build this and make it fair, and to make it equitable, and to make it have a standard that we believe supports the spirit of the regulation.
Just, sorry, keep going. No, keep.
So, but now that I'm understanding more, I still have an issue. I think, I mean, Mr. Sutherland just said when we were talking about MCAS, it evaluates a student on one day. And I guess, I mean, again, if we're trying to get competency in an entire year class, to say that they failed one exam, that means they don't get competency in the entire class, is a lot. And then it's like, okay, if they pass the class, but they didn't meet the competency determination, does that mean that they can just take the test again, or they have to do the whole class again? Because that's not there. And I just,
Yep.
I don't know, the challenge I had with MCAS was it puts everything into one test
Yeah.
to graduate, and then we're doing the exact same thing here again. And I would like to see expanded beyond just that. And again, I get where number 3 might be able to do that, but is that in retrospect? You go back, if you fail that, then you can look back and be like, they had to be in the class the whole time, and then something horrible happened, they didn't get any sleep the night before, they failed the final, but
Yeah.
we can still do it. That's where I'm struggling, I
It-
guess.
It calls into question the whole concept of what that means to have it be in the class, though, right? So
Right.
I think when we talk about mastery, and we're trying to work towards standards-based in middle and high school, right? We've got it in elementary school. The whole philosophy is, it's not about doing it on one day. It's about demonstrating it over time.
Correct.
There is also a piece of it about there needs to be some kind of retention, right? You can't just learn it at the end of the week and then you forget it 2 weeks later either. So there's a balance there that we have to explore, and that's really what our leadership curriculum leaders are exploring. What is the value of that final summative exam? They should be able to recall that from earlier in the year, but also if they were able to demonstrate it throughout the year and then they don't do it on one day, is that the same thing? So those are all the conversations we're having now, trying to make something, again, that's fair, equitable, and representative of the process. So, final assessment can be looked at in a lot of different ways. It can be looked at as a traditional one-day final, but we can also look at that as we're evaluating standards. All the things we've been talking about all night, all those standards that we're evaluating all the time and looking at how students are doing on them throughout. I think the communication piece about, for some, again, it's a small number of students who are on that bubble, and how it's clear whether are they going to graduate or not. That's the part we have to work on, especially if we've determined that they might not get there. Our hope is to get as many students there as possible, and maybe even more students than were not able to pass MCAS. But there's still going to be a handful of students who aren't able to demonstrate mastery, and that is a difficult conversation that we have to communicate out. So. And again, that conversation was easier when it was, there's this test, and it's almost like over there. Now it's our exam, and then the question comes up, then why are they getting a B in the class if they can't pass the assessment? And that's where we are now because of this
Yeah.
change in the regulations.
But then, and I guess the other concern I then have is, I'm not going back to wanting MCAS, Dr. Daly, but I guess then you get into, like, you have 2 different history teachers. They both have their own test, and one is much harder than the other,
So they're all the same.
Okay, it'll be the same test, okay.
Same test, and it may be,
Okay.
I believe we've talked about.
But their
it.
grading might be different.
Yeah, it may be a
That's another piece of
subset of questions on that test.
Okay.
So we might say the even numbers or whatever, right? Because we're pulling out what we've identified as the most important standards. The Declaration of Independence, the, underlining a verb, whatever it is. Those are the most important things from honors, AP, all the way down through all of our courses. Those are the standards that every 9th grader needs to be able to demonstrate proficiency on.
I'm just still not here yet, and even if it's just saying like a direction of like a, policy will be developed to determine what the final assessment is, like, I don't know. I don't support this policy yet. I see where
It's
you're
okay.
going, and I'm not saying I'm far against it, but like, I have too many questions to keep reading, and I understand there's gonna be other documentation afterwards, but we have till the end of the year to do it, and I still don't. I don't love this yet, and so.
That's okay.
I'm against it, so.
We kind of figured. We assumed where you were going.
What would we add? So, I mean, this is like the part of the initiative, ballot initiative last year that I didn't really truly appreciate until we got into here was, one, we can't use MCAS scores as a CE even if we
Bless you.
wanted to.
Bless you.
Which is a little bit
Right.
unfortunate,
Right.
right? 'Cause it would be nice if we could have or four pass the MCAS, but we legally can't do that anymore. But then two, 319 districts are wrestling with this exact
Yeah.
same problem independently. So I guess my question would be, what
I don't
would
know.
we add?
I haven't drafted anything yet.
Yeah.
I'll draft some.
I think that's what we
proposed
struggled with
language.
at
Yeah,
subcommittee is what, I'm struggling with, like, all right, so we have a final assessment or a capstone portfolio or an equivalent measure. So what other requirement would we, if we're to put a item 4 on that list, what would
But
it be?
I don't think it's necessarily another thing. I think it's just even a determination of like what the final assessment is, or, I don't know, something just feels missing to me still. And
I think a lot of the things that you might be looking for might be things that are more handbook-driven than policy.
Yeah.
I agree that that's a portion of it, and even if it's just like a direction that like a regulation will be, a policy will be drafted about this, or how the assessment is determined, or how you determine between the three. I don't know. I can't completely verbalize it. It's the first time I'm seeing this policy. And again, I didn't even really completely understand, like, if you pass a class, I thought that was your final assessment, but like, oh, you're saying the score on the final exam, and I don't know.
I know what you're saying about making it clear for the parents, so Sean, if you think it's more of a handbook thing versus a policy, once we have the handbook language, can't we add that to this policy?
So the
Or you can
difference
refer to it.
between- the
Or-
difference
yeah, or
between
refer to it.
handbook- Correct me if I'm wrong, handbook and policy would be just this, like the two reads, everything can change, where a handbook can be flipped pretty quickly as far as an something
Yeah.
that goes through there. And I think, like, logistically, we're still working on, like, what test administration might look like,
Right.
Right.
Trying to use all the information that we understand from what the state used for competency prior into applying here, right? Like, so this is, like Dr. Daly said, we're definitely not trying to create another barrier for our students
Yeah.
to stop them from graduating. And I would think that more history would say that students finishing the graduation requirements was a bigger barrier for graduation than MCAS was, except for a small population of students. So, we can put anything we want in policy, it just gets a lot harder to change if we want.
But even if the handbook was developed and there was a reference to it, and you just say, you reference whatever that
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
But the point is, you could wait to pass this until you see a first draft of the handbook language or whatever. Again, if we did it, I don't completely know what it is. I
Yeah, we
can look
can't.
more at it and,
We're not gonna have that in time.
okay,
Incorporation by reference.
So the,
right.
it sound, what I thought I heard also was that if we had some sentences here saying, that's what we're meaning by a line, but maybe there's something to say, these assessments will be standardized across the courses and will be communicated out in the handbook and in the syllabus, or, in the program of studies.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Because
Yeah,
that's
just so
really what it is.
parents
But
know.
the problem is, they're saying we have to have this it has to have 2 readings and be submitted by the.
I was going to ask,
calendar
what is the
year.
requirement for the end of the year?
Yeah, December 31st.
Well, but
And They
so
originally wanted this like in October, remember? So,
Again, I mean, for the timing piece of it, we could call a meeting and do a 15-minute meeting or 10-minute
Right.
meeting on.
but we're not gonna have that.
Correct.
They need the spring to work on this,
Right.
to get it right,
Right.
and to figure out exactly
So-
what it is.
I mean, I would personally prefer that a third of this was actually in policy, and most of it was in the handbook. So it's a little bit, so that, where our hands are tied there, right? That's my biggest lament, is this
liked
goes
how we did
against
it last
all of
year.
my policy bones, is
I
putting
agree.
all this detail behind 2 readings, but then have this rigidity behind it.
So
We
we,
can't really adapt as we learn new things.
we need to pass 2 readings of this thing before the end of the year in order to meet the basic requirement and pass it into the state.
I don't anticipate. that we-
Calendar year,
Yeah.
calendar year.
I think we'd have a mutiny of our teachers if we said you have to have all this done by December 31st. I think they're really trying to do the right thing here, to figure out as best they can ahead of giving those finals in the spring. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes.
Yeah, and so to say to them, they have to have it all spelled out by then,
But-
unfortunately, is.
Yeah, but the problem is the state is then, I feel like we have to approve it all to pass it into the state so that the state can get the data / information they need to do their work to pass back to us so we can get it right.
Yeah, and I'm happy to
It's
bring.
this weird
back
loop.
the-
Like-
I'm happy to bring back that level of detail ahead of doing it too, right?
No, I get that. It's just,
After December, but before it's administered.
look, in my perfect world, we do a first reading of it, pass that in, it's not a second reading, and it just basically is a draft that they're working on while we try and work through it on our own, and until we get guidance from the state. I'd rather, again, perfect world, I'd rather not finalize something when we know it's essentially a draft to the state anyway.
We're not gonna have that for this, maybe not this school year.
No, I wouldn't even expect it. In fact, I would expect it to take at least another calendar year.
So yeah, can't we just do that? Can we do the first reading and then that's it right now?
We have to do a second reading to pass it in.
Yeah, this is the challenge of decentralizing standard, right?
Remember, the state really only wants this level. They don't, that's where they don't want to micromanage, and this is the first time they've asked for graduation requirements. Like, we've been able
Ever.
to manage our graduation requirements on our own. Like, so there's districts out there that say you only have to take 2 years of math that aren't aligned to Mass Core. So they're going through, looking at what their graduation requirements are, on top of that. Like, so it's, all the questions and anxiety that you have is valid. We've all gone through the emotions that are around this and the responsibility that comes along with this. I feel very comfortable with the conversations and the work that the teachers and Dr. Meyer with the leadership at the high school, looking at what that, in that word mastery, proficient, competency, you need your thesaurus, because you're using all of them, right? We're not trying to make this bar a lot higher than what MCAS was telling us our students were doing, but we need to have that little second one because of, it needs to be something different than just the break for the course.
So at a practical level, we've got 2 more meetings without, absent putting in a special meeting to talk about this. My suggestion is we still need to move this forward, even though we might not be in full agreement on it. I still think we need to move the ball forward, and then if we're going to make revisions to it, make them before we get to the second reading. And if we need to have a special meeting to go through it, that's fine. Yep.
Question, thought, and
Yeah.
question is,
A question, a thought, and a comment.
so just, yeah, the question is, like with the courses that are limited here, so is the requirement just one of each of these 4? You have to have a competency determination in English, math, science, and US history? All.
And US history is not until 2027, possibly.
But no, but you have to, all 4 though.
You have to do something in
Only
every.
one class.
You have to do one thing in every box,
One,
except for the
Even
yellow
that-
box.
Even that is not clear to me from the policy, that you need one of each of these 4. It's like these courses all align with it. I don't even understand, from looking at this, I didn't even understand that you have to have one of those, and that's all. I didn't quite get that. Again, maybe I just didn't read it well. The comment overall is, I hear that we can make minor changes to a second reading, but if there's gonna be anything substantial, I think we should do a first and a second reading of that policy. And at the end of the day, we're talking about somebody graduating. Like, I get some of
It's
our
a big deal.
policies are
I get
not
it.
that impactful, but this is about somebody graduating. And I do think, again, I don't feel comfortable with it right now, and I can't verbalize it very well, but I just keep having questions about it, and again, I know some people, I have kids special leave, I know people think that's part of it. Another piece of this is like, I had a friend pass away in college, and I had a final exam the next day, and I did horrible on it, and they let me retake it. And it was just like, I couldn't imagine if somebody had something like that happen, and now they're at risk of not graduating, and I just wanna make sure we're really being thoughtful, and this is like, somebody might not graduate because of the policy we're passing right now.
Right.
And I wanna make sure that we're very clear
So-
about it, so.
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
may I-
No, go.
So that's speaking to, and I totally agree.
Yeah, I know.
It's a very small number of students that would be in that situation, and we would have about 15 different ways, just like with MCAS. They had opportunities for retests every year. We have courses they could take. There's so many things that would happen. It wouldn't come down to one final exam. They would have multiple opportunities.
But even if that was in for a little bit more, it's not like you failed the assessment,
Yep.
so therefore you're not,
So-
you don't get competence discrimination, you're not graduating, like, again, like, there's the appeals process that you don't get it, but
Yeah.
like,
What,
that's what I just wanna make sure.
what level of changes are allowed between a first and second reading? And the reason I'm asking that, to your point, is, I mean, we could add in here that it's one of the following in each box or whatever. I mean, to me, those are fairly minor changes.
Can I just explain that,
Yeah.
just so it's clear?
Yeah.
Like, so this needs to replace what MCAS measured.
Yeah.
So MCAS was a combination of English and math for 9th and 10th. It was science, we focused on biology.
Yeah.
And in 2027, this is going to have to be, it would have been a history MCAS that needed to happen. Now, for those students that are in these classes now, they have to do it in the class, because they're not gonna take the exam, or they're going to take the exam, but we can't count that as the exam. So that's why it's all of these pieces that are in the box. So again, it's one of these courses, one of these, but you have to do it in both 9th and 10th grade.
But we're not even
No.
sure we're gonna count chemistry or physics.
But,
So that's why I don't think these are there, because they could count if they don't, but we're gonna focus on biology in this district. And then we're gonna focus on multiple opportunities to pass that biology exam if you don't pass it the first time, as opposed to having to do it for chemistry and for physics in the same way.
but to me, and the gist of my question is, these are tweaks, not, in my opinion, they are tweaks, not major surgery. And I know that's a horrific mixed metaphor. Is that what's allowable between a first and second reading?
Yes.
To me, that's, I mean, I think this needs more the tweak category than major changes. And obviously, there could be disagreement there. I would suggest we vote on a first reading and take a look at what we have for a second reading, and then see where that gets us. Because I think there are some, in my opinion, there are some language changes that can be made here to make it clearer.
If I offer
Yeah.
maybe one option is we do a first reading, we have 2 more meetings, right?
Yep.
Scheduled meetings.
Scheduled meetings, yep.
We could potentially allow these 2 weeks to let people digest the policy. We could add an agenda item to the next meeting. People could raise specific ways the policy subcommittee could take it
Yeah.
back for a final reading on the 8th.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with where you're going.
It's not clear to me what to change yet. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think that we could make
That's fine.
changes that would change, you know what I mean?
That would meet that need.
Especially to
Yeah.
stop the opportunity to digest it, maybe bring ideas back next committee meeting, let policy subcommittee then take those and then fold them into a.
But my thought is I would like to move us closer to a known, we have to hit the end state. I would like to move us closer to that with the option to make changes as we need to, and I think that makes sense.
Agreed.
Any other comments? And then my suggestion is make a motion, vote however we're going to vote, and then see if we can move it forward. But any other comments? Can we get a motion to approve the first reading of policy IHF, the local graduation requirements?
Motion to approve local graduation requirements, policy IHF, first reading.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have it approved 3-1. I believe that's our first non-unanimous vote of this board.
No, I had one.
No?
Back-
Well, yeah,
back
yeah,
with
right.
User fees.
Yep. Well done. Second.
It's only two.
I know, pretty good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I will get some thoughts at that.
Yeah, I think that's more than appropriate, and this was a big one, and I think we spent 2 meetings talking about this one, and like I said,
Yeah.
I think that to put this level of detail in policy is a lot, and the fact that every district is facing this is not ideal.
All right, why don't we keep moving? We still have a bunch of other items on the list. Do we want to go back, or do we want to just stay because we're, oh, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, why don't we take a 2-minute break? We'll come back. discussions. All right, why don't we get back to it? We have a couple appointments to make, and, you know, I think we're appointing the same person to this. Okay,
I move to appoint Dr. Daly as the North Shore Education Consortium Board of Directors.
are we going right to that? I'm fine with that.
Second it, so.
Second.
There we go.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
Do you want it?
I'm all in. Should have done this 3 months ago, I forgot, sorry.
Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. All right, appointment of the SEAM Collaborative Board of Directors. Why don't we just go?
I move to appoint Dr. Daly as the representative of the SEAM Collaborative Board of Directors.
25-26.
25-26.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion?
Do you want that one too?
I do.
Okay.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Awesome. All right, routine matters. We've got the minutes from the October 27th, 2025 meeting.
I move to approve the October 27, 2025 open session minutes.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion?
You just say as read, as written.
Yeah.
Yes, no discussion.
Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, 4-0, approved 4-0, great. Budget update, none at this time. Staffing, why don't we go to staffing?
We had some staffing hires to replace folks that have left the district, no new positions. But Michaela Costa, paraprofessional general at the Little, Katie Rego for an annual appointment to Title I tutor. At the middle school, Molly Corthell is a long-term substitute teacher of English language arts. She is also going to be, she's internal, she was a building sub, moving there, and then she's going to move over to social studies when there's a retirement. Later this year, food services, 2 new positions, Denise Rosario and Stephanie Spinelli. And then we do have the retirement of Miss Catherine Jones at the middle school coming up in a few weeks.
Excellent. Now, why don't we go to bids and donations? We have a number of them, which is phenomenal.
Only 5. We're not breaking records this time.
Fair enough.
I move that the school committee vote to accept with gratitude a donation of $2,100 from the North Reading Hornet Hall of Fame to be put towards the FanX app for snap raise purposes.
That's a mouthful.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved 4-0.
I move that the school committee vote to accept with gratitude a donation of $400 from the North Reading Hornet Hall of Fame to be put towards the Chuck Carucci dedication sign.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion?
It was a great ceremony, and I know that Dr. Daly thanked the principals for the secondary school, but Dr. Daly, thank you for putting that together. That was really great, and the turnout was really impressive on a very cold evening, so appreciate that.
Yeah, I apologize again for not showing up, but it looked like a great event.
And I was gonna say, I hope we accept it since the sign's already hung.
Yeah, too late.
We'll take it down.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved 4-0.
I move that the school committee vote to accept with gratitude a donation of $938 from the Batchelder Parent Organization to be used towards the 3rd grade field trip to the Concord Museum.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved 4-0.
I move that the school committee vote to accept with gratitude a donation of $1,000 from Nancy Kavalauskas to be used towards the performing arts program at the high school.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved 4-0.
I move that the school committee vote to accept with gratitude a donation of $7,000 from the Hood Parent Organization to be used for grade 1 through 5 field trips at the Hood School.
Wonderful. That's awesome.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we're into grants. My cap.
Oh, yeah.
Aforementioned MyCap grant,
Yep.
I think we've talked about it quite a bit this evening.
Yep.
$14,000. It's a recommended motion if anyone would like to accept.
Who wants to hit the motion?
I move that the school committee vote to accept the MyCap Planning and Implementation Competitive Grant from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for the amount of $14,000.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved 4-0. Social media. We've done the overnight trips, none at this time, sorry. So, number 7, social media.
Just a quick comment on, I would love to use the data from Mr. Colleen's slide regarding the peer districts and the overall state placement.
Yeah.
Any,
I think he said he had to change the slide though, right?
I think he deleted one and.
it's literally consolidated, but if there's a more detailed version that I
Yeah.
could have, and if there's more data, or, but I think both of those, I think they'd be two separate kind of
Yeah.
posts anyways.
Yeah.
But I think that
Oh,
it's
that
good
data
for the
makes total
community to
sense.
see.
I think, yeah, I'll check in with him and we'll communicate it. I'm
Great.
most comfortable sharing the state data. I think
Yeah.
The peer district.
the pure one is sort of our own analysis of that, and I just want to think about how that would be presented.
You don't want to annoy the.
Why?
the
It's a
local
little bit,
districts.
it's a little bit complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about on
and
Thanksgiving morning, you
included in why. and-
Thanksgiving.
How about on Thanksgiving morning, you just do a comparison to Linfield and
Yeah, we
just
can
put that out?
do that. Disagree with that, sure. But
Just keep
the
Westwood out.
state data is pretty well grounded, and there will be data for the other piece. While I'm on it, I just wanted to clarify earlier too, the reason why the middle schools are that way, it's hard to define a middle school, because you've got Masco that's 7-8, you've got other districts that are 5-8, you've got 6-7-8, and then some schools that are K-8, so they changed that model after years of complaints that there was no apples to apples. The downside is you are kind of looped in against, high achieving elementary schools when you're for that percentile, so.
No.
I didn't catch it the first time he said it, but I got it
I didn't say,
more the second time. What?
I didn't say that to him.
No, I asked Mr. Clean about that, and
Oh, yeah.
he said it once. I was like, wait, what did you just say? I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't catch what he was talking.
But that's why, it's, so on some part, it's a little bit not apples to apples, but overall, it's a more accurate representation because
Right.
the grade levels are all, it's everything that's K-8 is compared for that figure, so.
We also haven't included anything from any of the school improvement plans, so I didn't know if there was anything that we wanted to highlight there.
I would suggest separating those two things out if you want the impact for the MCAS.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
focus
Sorry,
on-
I'm talking. Sorry, I've moved on. I've
Yeah.
moved on from.
But like, how do you get one slide from the school improvement plans? I think is the issue.
Well, I think that goes back to,
Cool.
or however, yeah, I'd still love to see
But even one slide
from each,
either of them.
when we do have these, if we could start to get like that one key takeaway
Right.
chart at the end, that would be good from the principals and whoever's presenting, just so it'll help us
Right.
kind of understand what they think the priority is. But I do wonder, I don't know, I do wonder what we could put in for that. 'Cause there was some really interesting information, I'm just not sure how to distill it down into one.
Correct. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get it all down to one slide, even for each school. You know what I mean, I don't know.
Well, I mean, just for example, tonight with Dr. O'Connell, she had at the beginning, like, she laid out, we're in the third year of
Right.
restorative, we're this, we're that, so just,
Right.
maybe just.
Yeah, it doesn't
That
have
was
to
the
be
one
everything.
slide that I agreed,
Yeah.
but like, at the high school, I don't know.
I can't remember the other stuff.
I mean, would
How much
you,
is it?
would you be okay with just if I reached out to the principals that if you wanted to put this on one takeaway, what would it be for the school committee?
If you don't mind, I'd rather just do, they'll
Okay.
probably
Sure.
prefer if I ask them.
Sure, that's fine.
Um,
However you want to do it.
just to see how that goes, but I
Okay.
also think, yeah, maybe there's something we could do, a cross-cutting theme across
Sure.
them. Someone said earlier tonight there was student voice throughout or something.
Yeah.
May I also just suggest that we're starting to accumulate some suggestions for positions that are helpful? So maybe there's a way to communicate that as well.
Well, yeah, that's actually a good point. Like, maybe it should be a high and a low. Like, that like this is what's lacking or whatever, this is what's needed to go to the next step, this was identified as.
Yep. That'd be-
Interventionist.
That would be
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah.
But again, like, there were very specific answers back about that, which is good, and so I think, Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
Before Jeff stole your question, I remember when
Totally.
the chair let everybody else speak first.
Whatever. It's the new sheriff in town.
That steals questions, just so you know. Don't tip your hand on the questions.
Okay. All right. Anything else for social media? All right. Subcommittee updates. We met as a financial planning team last Friday. Do you want to give a brief update?
I kind of left, I think, I don't even know if it was halfway through by the time I left, so.
Fair enough. So several things are going on. The sum and gist is that we're getting more clarity on what sort of budget caps we expect to see, and some of the initial picture of revenue coming in, some of which is good, but there are just a lot of elements that are pointing in the direction of there's going to be another pretty substantial gap this year. We haven't factored in things like what is the increase going to be for health insurance, which is going to be way bigger than it was last year. But there are no massive surprises to certainly the school budget. And, you know, we still are expecting to go in a direction of seeing deficit. I don't know, Dr. Daly, if you have any other just basic points on that. You don't have to. I'm just trying to give a summary.
I'd just say I really want to appreciate the town who
Yeah.
brought forward some figures earlier in the process, because we've
Right.
talked a lot about how important it was to get to some numbers early so we can start to really think strategically about getting the messaging out. We do not want to be in a place where we're making the kind of cuts we've had to make the last
Correct.
2 years, and we want to make sure the public has a chance to understand the impact of those numbers. So getting us numbers in November is huge. So we're in a much better place to make a more accurate prediction of where we are. So we hope for that next meeting that's coming up that we can really identify what that gap is and then what the impact of that gap would be
Right.
before the end of the calendar year.
And for those that are out there that might be listening, or might want to watch this later, all three of you, this isn't like planning your household budget. For those that might do that, this is way more fluid, a lot more variables to it. So when we say, oh, we're still looking at the budget, we're still getting in numbers, you know, this is an evolving process that goes on throughout the year of getting tax numbers in, getting in receipts of whatever's going on. What is the revenue that's coming in from property? What are we going to do with that? Like, this is a highly fluid situation. It's not at all like you would expect or analogize to a household budget. And that's why it's a little more difficult to nail down to say, oh, well, why don't we have the number? There isn't a single number. We work toward that, and then we get the best information we can, and then we plan off of that. And that's what we're doing, and we're going to sort of draw a line in the sand and say, okay, as we get the information we get, probably within the next meeting or so, that's when we're going to start making some decisions about what gaps we have and what we think we need to do about it. So that's my overall. Again, I say it in 100 words that probably Dr. Daly said in 5, so it's great.
So you're just trying to figure out what to do with the huge surplus we have, right?
Massive surplus. You didn't buy a car, did you? Okay. Policy subcommittee met on October 31st. I'm guessing we know what you
I
guys
think
talked
you
about.
guys saw the fruit of the labor.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, was it over by 11:35?
One of these meetings will get to policy B, but it's
Sorry.
Next year.
next year.
We're good. Did CPIC, has they started meeting?
No.
Do we know?
I think it's
No.
No.
coming up soon.
Okay. All right, so subcommittee schedule. Athletic subcommittee is scheduled to meet November 18th, 12:30 PM. Finance planning is scheduling for December 5th, 8 AM. And the fine arts subcommittee is December 9th at 3:15 PM. All right.
No.
Administrative report. Dr. Daly.
I'll just very quickly, two things we've already spoken to, the new website that did officially launch, I've been kind of teasing it. It
Yeah,
officially launched.
looks great.
I heard some feedback, still building it. They were able to do that pop-up to just let people know that it's still work in progress
Yeah.
and collect some feedback, which you've been using, but I hope you have seen that it's a little bit fresher looking.
It's great.
So,
Easy to navigate, for sure. That's
Yeah.
nice.
I haven't gone there yet.
we got it, we have an updated picture of school committee, and
Oh,
so
nice.
there's
Oh,
there's
no.
some new information. No math, exactly.
All right, all respect to the pictures that were done in the past. Let me know when you guys want to do a real one, and I'll take a real picture.
And the second item was just to recap the ceremony that we just spoke about here, so.
Excellent. Okay.
I'll just reference there, Mr. Simons, who was here earlier this evening, did so much to help with the amount of photos that he took at the time, that he shared, and what he's done now is he's placed them around the building. So
I saw that.
it's really pretty neat
Yeah.
I put out something to all the students and staff. What amazed me was even Mr. Segroy, for example, who was helping me put him up on the screen, and Mr. Barber, they're watching it, and I'm like, oh, and then I realized they weren't here either. So like, even for teachers and students, that it's history to them. They've never seen the PAC before it was the PAC. So for them to see it and live through it was pretty impressive.
Right.
So what's kind of cool is when you go to the PAC now, you see just the structure or the DLL, or, so you'll see those around the building. It's pretty neat.
I was looking at that when I came in today. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
As someone who moved in to the district in 2015,
Yeah.
I think it's phenomenal to see, so I love it. All right, correspondence, none at this time. Future business, we've got 2 meetings coming up for November 24th and December 8th. Clearly, we know one of the topics we're going to be talking about, the policy we just went through, but the next meeting, we're also going to get FY26 budget update. That's pretty important, as well as capital improvements, also very important. Just so people who are listening out there, I know we talked about this at town meeting, we will likely not have the information back from the state about the modular projects. That's a separate discussion, so the capital improvements plan will not be directly on that topic because we will not know yet. And the December 8th meeting, obviously, we're going to likely go back through the same policy we just talked about as well. So I think that's about it. Did I miss anything? Anybody? Scott, you've got a very nice water bottle with your name on it.
I'll just say the capital improvements plan, the past few years, we've done a separate presentation and then a vote. We're just combining them into one.
Yeah.
There's not a need to do that separately, but we did that in anticipation that there might be some discussion, and if there needs to be changes, we can still do that, but the vote, we're hopeful that, as the last few years, there'll be support for it.
The presentations we get about those are fantastic, and for those who don't know, the capital improvement projects that go on throughout the town, without a doubt, the ones given by the school are some of the most detailed and thorough plans, not to say the others aren't, but they're just really well done, so.
I think that is to say the others aren't.
Yeah, okay, I didn't really mean to say that, so sorry. No, it's just that we've consistently done a very good job with it, so I'm not worried about it. All right, can we get a
Motion
final
to
motion?
adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. Opposed? None. 4-0. Great.